Hello, what's up, rockers? How's everybody doing out there? What's happening? Got the coffee ready to go. Number 187. Is that what this week is, I think? Well, how about that? Who we got here? Roxall, Gary, Dan. What's happening, everybody? What's happening? What happened this week? Only got one video out this week. I wish I'd gotten two out. But anyway, the one I did was pretty fun for this pedal. The 1987 V2. This is a Marshall in the box, Marshall in this box style pedal that has a boost feature. They called it 11. You can see it right there. It's a nice looking pedal. I like it. The look, basic but cool. Made in Italy. Sounds really good. Not a lot of pedals that have maybe this range. Like you could hear it in the video. I think I can get all the way from just crunchy, lower gain sort of rock AC/DC something all the way through to like really high gain, just via the two sides. And pretty versatile as far as the tight switch and the mids switch, being able to add like the mid switch is really quite active. So you can get all the way from a relatively scooped to, like real pokey for the solos and stuff like that, which is nice. I think it sounds really good. So a cool one to check out. If you haven't seen the video yet, it's up on my channel. Stealth Parrot says Johan Segborn and Dave Friedman on Tone Talk. I was just listening myself. I guess they scheduled one for this morning because of Johan's over in Europe, and so I was a little bit late today, but on purpose this time. Just giving them a little bit of breathing room to do their show and stuff like that. I like his videos. He seems like a cool guy. He does good stuff. What else? What are you guys talking about? Mark is trying to wrap it up, says John. Yeah, that's all good. We got it. Sometimes it's like, scheduling and stuff like that. You got to do them at different times, especially when you're having guests, when it makes sense, for them, because over there, it's of course, it's got to be getting close to 9-10 p.m., something like that. So, yeah. What are you guys talking about? I stuck a 5751 tube in the preamp slot on my Sir Badger 30. Do you install different tubes for tones? For sure, I do. Not necessarily like different, like 57. Well, actually, let me think about it. Have I ever put in a lower gain? I mean, it was kind of like a Stevie Ray Vaughan thing. He used to do it in his Fenders for a little more headroom, evidently 5751s in the first stage. You can try it with no repercussions, or, if you just want a little bit more headroom and it feels like, on the gain control, like I wish it was a little cleaner on 4 than it is, you can do that with a 5751, or if you want a more pronounced version, you can try a 12A U7 or a 12A T7. One other thing that maybe sort of an interesting thing, a little aside, is that many times like old Mullards and stuff, 12A T7s, that spec will be cheaper than 12AX7s because the 12AX7s are the most popular. So you might be able to experiment with getting some new old stock tubes for relatively cheap that are of that, like I've got a couple Brimar 12AT7s and stuff lying around. And, if any amp that you want more headroom, you can put them in. I'm always curious if it's like, well, what if I just brought the volume down to 3 then? Wouldn't it be the same thing? But maybe not. I guess, I guess it's slightly different. Yeah, so yeah, it's a thing. But certainly like just the tube types. Like I played a Marshall in here this week that it was an old 74 that had 6550s in it, for instance. I've never had an amp with 6550s. For my purposes, it was a really good one, but it was like I wouldn't really probably gravitate toward that sound, but it was interesting. It was a very loud, kind of full range, hard sort of sound, whereas compared to say my SL68 or my 50 watt, which is not as much of a direct comparison because it's like only 50 and this was 100, So maybe the SL68 was a more direct because you could compare the volumes exactly. But with the L34s, which I have in the 68, they're much more mids in a cool way, like upper mid Kerrang Marshall thing, whereas the 6550s are just this really big sound. Like it was a different sound. So there's that, but that's power tubes instead of preamp tubes, comparable types, but it's fun to mess around. Nathan Liberty says, when was the last time you talked to Greg Soren? That's funny. I ran into him in North Hollywood at pizza place a while ago, and we ended up sitting and eating pizza together and stuff. This is a guitar player that does American Idol now, and I've done 2 tours with. I toured with Jewel and also with a French artist named Mylène Farmer with Greg. He's a great guitar player. And so we were bandmates and did a lot of traveling together and stuff. Yeah. Do you own any solid state amps? I do. I have well, there's one of those little Bogners sitting right up there. The little guys, those are solid state, basically. The little, there's a Friedman version, but the main one that comes to mind is the L5. I have an old Lab L5, which is fun to mess with. I bought it because of my sort of like King's X geekery. I love Ty Tabor and sounds and stuff, and it really does sound great when you set it like he does. I think you need to do all the stuff to get the Ty Tabor sound, which would be like the pickups and the preamp and all that in the guitar, and all that you got to have all this stuff to get there. It'd be interesting if somebody made a pedal that was like a Ty Tabor signature thing, that maybe with regular single coils you could get that sound, like that had I know there's a company that makes an L5 in a pedal. It's like the whole preamp section of the L5 in a pedal is kind of interesting, and I think they make it as a kit too that you can put together yourself. But it would be neat if there was a pedal that was an L5 preamp and the preamp from the Fender as well, all in the pedal, like that. How he played that Fender Elite Strat. And it's got it's kind of the precursor really to the kind of what ended up in the Eric Clapton model with the preamp and the pickups that, and he had a mid boost and stuff in his guitar. I think it's very similar, evidently, to whatever that circuit is. So it's kind of interesting. But that's my main. I guess I digress. The L5, I don't have it in here. It's in my storage room, and I need to mess with it more and play around with it more, have some fun with it. I'd love to write a song with it and maybe record with it and see what I can get going. It's funny, both me and John Sir went on a little like L5 kick for a minute, and because he really likes Ty Tabor too, and we both bought used ones. We were both like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we buying these amps? It's kind of funny. This is like not something we really need, but we're gonna spend some money on them, I guess. It's just funny. Anyways, just looking through the chat here. Who else we got here? John's here, and Dory, and Todd Roy, and David. What's up, all you people? Good to see y'all. Good to see you. One thing I'm going to tell you about this week is my buddy Mitch Malloy, who was some folks might know him, and if you're unfamiliar with him, I'll tell you who he is. He was a singer that was actually asked to join Van Halen in the mid '90s. He had a couple solo albums out, I think, and then they got word about him, and he went out and spent some time with the Van Halen guys at the 5150, the legendary 5150 studio, and was actually at one point asked to join the band while he was out there. And then it all kind of fell apart around the time that Dave went on the MTV Awards with the band, and he thought, oh, I guess this isn't happening, and one thing led to another, and it never ended up materializing. But anyway, he sings in Great White now, the band Great White. And we've gotten to know each other a little bit. And he asked me if I would go do a Van Halen show in Florida. And so it's happening on October 9th. I said, yes, I'll go do it and play some music. Let's go play some music live. Why not? It's some other great musicians. The drummer's sounds fantastic to me. I've never met him, but he's played with Keith Urban and all kinds of people. He's a Nashville guy. because Mitch actually lived in Nashville for many, many years. He's in Florida now, but and then bass player is from Phil X and the Drills, and he's a terrific bass player and sings great and stuff like that. So it seemed like great musicians and just like a fun thing to go do. It's a challenging thing to do a whole set of Van Halen music, but I'm always up for a challenge, like, because it's really good for your playing and to, so I've been, long story short, you might have seen some of the videos I've been putting up on Instagram and stuff like that. I've been working out parts and solos and stuff, and it's just been a blast, and it is really good for my playing. And I kind of needed that right now, because just sitting in this room and, writing the tracks I do for videos and stuff like that is fun and everything. I really enjoy it. But I don't have any touring really till next year that I know about yet. January things start getting busy, but I was like, I got to do something, like, because I'm just feeling like stagnant or whatever, So it seemed like a great opportunity. So there you have it. And I'll be posting more details about it and stuff if anybody wants to check it out, if anybody's in the area and wants to maybe make the trek and come see us. It's going to be a blast, like kind of a celebration of Van Halen music. He's donating part of the proceeds to a local school music program so that they can get instruments and stuff like that. And I don't think he's probably going to go in the hole doing this show. It's really for the love of the music and the celebration of because he's kind of pulling out all the stops as far as like the production and stuff like that. And, everybody's got to get, at least paid for their time, so that we're not, everybody's going, I just can imagine he's not going to, I don't think he's doing it to make money. I don't think that's going to happen with the cost to get everybody there and stuff like that. But we'll see. But my point being, if anybody's like, oh, he's making money off that. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think if anything, he's going to end up spending money to do this gig. And it's for the love of the music and really a celebration, because we love almost a year since Edgy passed. And it just feels like the right time. I mean, I've never done a whole set of Van Halen music. I've obviously played songs and stuff like that here and there, but it seems like a blast, It's going to be really fun. So anyways, there you have it. Let me see here. Christopher Butler is up there in the super chat. Let me grab that right now. He says, I have a pair of late 80s EVM 12Ls, one in Pacific Woodworks, one 12 second in a no-name cab. Only used them with a Roland GP100 and a Mesa 5050. Would the PT15 sound bad through them? I honestly, I have kind of no idea. You'd have to try it. I don't think it's gonna sound bad. Those are cool speakers. They're very different sounding than Celestions, but they have their own thing, But great sounding speakers in my experience, especially for that kind of like, clean sound thing that they do. It's like a very full. I mean, a lot of rock guys played through them. George Lynch, or did George Lynch play through them? Well, I know Jake did, as well as Zach. He was always really well known for using those particular speakers. So, anyways, that's that. I think you'd have to try it. I think they would probably work great, especially with the clean channel. And then it's really a matter of like, are you into the sound they make for Dirty? I don't think a lot of like folks think of them as like some, a Celestion is a certain thing. And to me, it's like the sort of that like, I don't know how you call it, but like the woody low end or whatever and mids of a greenback is like a very like distinctive thing that to me, I love. And it's hard for me to get away from that, because when I hear other sounds, it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's not quite the thing that I like. And then I always hear a greenback that's just right, or like my blackbacks that are in my cabs, the old ones. I always go like, there it is. That's my home base, that kind of thing. It's like when I play through a Dumbles inspired amp. It's cool, but it's a different sound, and not exactly like the Marshall voice that I'm used to, Marshall flavored voice, So, I think you'd have to try them, long story short, and just see if you like them. My suggestion about grabbing Celestion all mic'd RRs was so spot on. Excellent. That's Arthur in the super chat there. Thanks for the super chats, you guys. I loaded my Moore radar with a few and I'm blown away. They are really good. That's a great place to start if anybody's interested in the Celestion impulse responses. The all mic, or to tell you the truth, I actually don't use the all mic now. I just use the blend of the 57 and the 121. So it's 2 of the 3 mics, which they also give you. But the all mic blend is good too. It's just got a bit more of that mid-range character of the 421 that sometimes I find. I don't mind 421s, and I used one here for like quite a while recently as my second mic on guitar cabs, but I'm always mixing it kind of low, and I'm finding I'm using this Audio Technica 4050 now, and I'm finding I'm using more of that, because I like the character more of that mic rather than when you're blending 2, it's like you've got that 57 with that upper end thing that it does, that aggressive mid-range thing, upper mids and high end, kind of, some might say even fizzy, and then you sort of bring in the other mic to counteract that and bring in some other frequencies. So whatever that other mic is doing, if it's a really great sounding mic and it's got to be complementary, you tend to use more of it, and with the 421, I'd bring it in, just use a little bit of it, because I find if it was too much, it was like, the 421 is really quite mid-rangey to me. You know what other mic I'm really liking these days? And it's a part of the package that I did with 2 Notes for this recent thing that I did, where I went to Sunset Sound and made some Dyne IRs, the 2 Notes impulse response format, did a whole collection of those. One of the mics that we included is a 441 from Sennheiser. And I don't know why more people didn't use that mic. It's a great sounding microphone. So I actually prefer the 441, I think, to a 421 on guitars. And one of these days I got to get a hold of one of those. Have you ever heard the guitar solo by Terry Kath on 25 or 64 by Chicago, says Brian Gregory there in the super chat. I have. Have you guys seen the version that band over in somewhere in Eastern Europe did of 25 or 64 with the guitar player playing that? It's unbelievable. Maybe somebody can find it and post the link. If you look up 25 or 64 cover or something, you'll probably find it. It's got a lot of views, and it's a pro shot video in a studio in somewhere over in, I believe it's in Eastern Europe somewhere. And the guitar player is ripping, like kind of like really great raw tone, and like with the like such a great attitude and stuff. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, really cool. Really cool, really cool. What are you guys talking about? Oh, Russia, says Christopher. Are they from Russia? Is that what it is? So it was really, really, really good. Such great playing. So, okay, I'm just gonna start at the bottom of the chat here and then go back up through it. Van Boingo, out of the 23 EVH sounding pickups, which ones stuck out and are your favorites? We did do a show on that, so you can see like more kind of detailed information. But long story short, it just depends on the sound you want. I thought for that Van Halen 1 thing, for those particular songs, the super distortion was amazing. But that's that one sound, and it's kind of a one-trick pony, but it's a great sound. Just the good old super distortion, or the vintage Mighty Mite clone of it it's like, well, there's that sound. It's great. But as an overall thing, I was really intrigued with the 9K A2 variants for me, sort of, for what I like. And I really enjoyed the Pasadena White from Pariah. I really enjoyed the rewind version of it. The Duncan 78 was good too, really good. And it's not an A2, but I thought the VH2 from Bare Knuckle was excellent. Really, really, really a nice sounding pickup. And more just like maybe if you've got I was thinking of basswood body, because with the A5, it's probably just a little brighter than the A2 variants, which always have a little bit more muted, rounded off top end to me. So depending on the wood you've got in your guitar, one of those ones I just mentioned, one of those 5 or so pickups I just mentioned. Now, the 14K jobbies were cool too. They're just hotter. And, ironically, I mentioned I'm doing this Van Halen show, and I've got a couple of I've got a Bumblebee here. This guy. And a Frankie too. And of course, these just have the Wolfgang pickups in them, and it's kind of if you look at the spec, I mean, it's basically that kind of A2 close to 14K spec. That's what they are. And I'm trying to not actually think about it, like, so all the effort and everything that you put in the tone and all that stuff is like, trying to get this exact thing and whatever. You know what? I've come back around to recently, like, it's okay, 99% of this is totally in your hands. And through learning this music for the show, which I'm working really hard on, it's like I'm not even thinking about that stuff actually right now. I'm just like like working on the notes and the phrasing, which I've made some really cool discoveries lately about a few licks and things. Certain things that Eddie would do, and it was like I was like, oh, that really sounds like it now if you do it like this, and little phrasing things and stuff. And so I'm really concentrating on that at the moment. And I've, since doing that pickup video and everything, I've just taking a break away from it for a second, just going, well, just think about the parts now and just don't worry so much about that stuff. So, but hopefully that's helpful what I just mentioned. The other, I should say, the custom to me for the hotter, the 14K A2 sort of sounded really good too. The Frankenstein pickup sounded really good too, just for, but they're all kind of in that same output as the EVH, and those are all the variations on the theme. So you kind of have your hotter variations on the theme. You got your ceramic, which is like totally different thing to me, and like that hot distorted Van Halen 1 sound. And then you got the 9K A2 variants, which were a lot of fun. I should say the Thornbucker too, that had the A2 in it. It's just a little underwound because it's like 8.6K or whatever, and ended up being that version with the A2 sounded great to me. Just like a slightly, like more for like if I was doing Billy Gibbons or anything that's just kind of like where you want a true sort of PAF, not even a hot PAF. It was great. And I've been experimenting lately with pickups with those guys, with a Thornbucker wind, which is a unique wind with wound up a little bit hotter and all this stuff. So more on that later. But it's a sound I'm really digging these days, that warmer A2 wound up to 9K sound. So yeah, so somebody's asking about when the show is. It's the 9th, and it's I'm just looking for the venue here. Mitch has a website on it, so it's the Maddie Kelly Arts Foundation. So it's West Destin, Florida. And you can find it at mitchmalloy.com, the exact location, the time, and everything. But it's going to be fun. There's at least one band opening, if not two, I think. So you can find more information at mitchmalloy.com. And if there's any kind of, because it rains a lot, there's the Gulf and stuff like that. If there's any kind of weather problems, they've got the 10th reserved as well for a kind of a rain out day. So yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard of someone named Nathan December? He was in the Goo Goo Dolls before Greg Saran joined. No. When I first met Greg was touring with the Goo Goo Dolls as their kind of like second guitar player. It's now my old friend Brad Franquist. It's a small world. All those guys that were doing gigs back around then, starting around that time. But Greg was doing it which was 2001 when I started touring with the band Five for Fighting. We did a whole summer tour with Goo Goo Dolls, and Greg was the guitar player in Goo Goo Dolls then. And we, that's where we met. About 5 years after that, we ended up in the same group, Jules Band, doing a tour together, and then again in 2013. Yeah. I haven't heard of that other fellow though. No, sorry, I haven't. Torrance Baird says he's got Thornbuckers in his Jaguar, one in the bridge of his Strat. They sound great. Thanks, man. Yeah, they're good. The good old Thornbucker with the current version, both the Plus and stuff. They're terrific. I love them. Let's see. Michael says EVH talked about falling down the stairs and landing on your feet, which I assume means he doesn't count but knows where the beat is. Well, Eddie, to me, and I'm through learning all his music, it's like I'm realizing like he had that thing where he did the thing I've talked about in the past called digestible phrases, where he would play a cool riff and then give you a second, then another cool riff. And, he broke up a lot of the, I think he talked about it like a race car crashing and then going again. He broke up a lot of his riffs with the bar, like doing dives and slide up and play a riff and then, maybe a dive and then another riff. And then, so he had a lot of that. And I think that's what he was talking about. But you will hear how he has this magic thing where he would His phrasing is really intense, like, and always grooved. But at times there's like 5 notes where you think there might be 4. And I'm maybe a victim sometimes of, well, not a victim, but like it's obviously a choice. But it's like, and a lot of us do this, where metronomically, like I might play really strict 16th notes or 8th notes or 8th note triplets or 16th note triplets, whatever, and do riffs like that. He didn't really do that. Like, it's like he broke up it's almost like a jazz. He was really slippery with the phrasing, and it always sounded great. But it's like when you start to break it down, you go, oh my God, there's an extra note in there that like you have to play or it doesn't quite sound right. It's really interesting to me how he did that. And then also broke up the phrases and stuff. And that's a brilliant thing how he would do that, because it gave the listener time to absorb what had just happened. And then move on to the next thing, and then move on to the next thing, as opposed to this kind of like what I hear a lot of shred guitar. It's like a lot of like a barrage of notes that never ends for like 30 seconds, where it's just like this steady stream of, it's like too much to absorb almost, in my opinion. So what is the difference between the custom and the 78? The 78 is 9K. It's less winds, really. And I mean, there's other differences too, but custom is essentially a Seymour Duncan custom, which had a ceramic magnet, that original version of that pickup, and was around, so basically a super distortion spec, really, as far as the output and stuff goes. It didn't have the same type of pull pieces and whatnot, but it was about right around the same output. And they took that pickup, the Duncan Custom, and then they put an Alnico 2 magnet in it, and you would get the Custom. And that is a pickup that I think Eddie favored and used, at least on occasion, for a while, kind of around starting around maybe 84, 85, somewhere in that era. 86, he was, I think, kind of tinkering around with lots of different pickups. And that would be one of the ones that he was, allegedly using in a lot of those Kramers and stuff. And that makes sense. It's a nice sounding pickup. It's warm, lots of mids, pushes the amp, kind of rolled off top end a little bit, and that works well with, an aggressive, bright Marshall. It's a pleasure, says Jason. Thanks, man, up there in the super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Have you had a chance to demo the alternate versions of the Constellation or Sackless 6 pedals? No, I didn't know there was any alternate versions. Actually, just the versions that I did do demos of the originals. Constellation, that's a great pedal, having the variety of fuzz and then a Rangemaster style boost in there and stuff. You can get a lot of cool sounds out of that pedal. I really like that. Where's the best place to buy thornbuckers? I would say, Ryan, probably look at a store like Humbucker Music. If you look up Humbucker online, you should be able to find some. But a quick Google search, you'll probably find a lot of stores out there advertising them for sale and stuff, because everybody's got an internet thing going these days. But that was the one that came to mind. Yeah. What's your opinion about ceramic magnet speakers versus Alnico? I think there's great. Both types are really cool. I always think of Alnico as having a little more compression and bounce and this really neat thing to them, whereas ceramic I think of as a little bit more sort of maybe not as many mids or compression, and a little bit more maybe full range sounding, and sort of more aggressive, maybe would be like some of the speakers we think about, G12H30s, V30s, greenbacks, a little bit more in your face, as opposed to a Celestion Blue, which has that classic kind of voxy compression and a bit more like of a, I don't want to say polite sound, but they have a bit, it's like it's just a slightly less hard rock sound maybe, and a bit more of a cool, just for different things. I mean, I really like some other Alnico magnet speakers like that Celestion makes as well, like the Alnico Cream is a beautiful sounding speaker, and I think pretty versatile. So you can get outside of the this sort of the stereotypes that I'm talking about, the compression and the all that stuff, maybe getting into some more modern Alnico types. They don't necessarily like, you could use them for metal, I guess, or something, but not a lot of people do. It seems like people still use a speaker like the Alnico Cream in like a combo or something where you need high power handling, but they want that Alnico flavor in a combo. You don't see a lot of people like with a 412 loaded with Alnico Creams playing like angle amps and metal, So for what it's worth. Arthur says, I feel like the Eddie Randy division was put to rest when Eddie passed away. Do you think we'll see another guitar god rise to their level? There was a lot of competition in the 80s with guitar players, and that doesn't really exist now. I don't feel like there was a lot of sort of like shit talk and stuff like that went on back then. You heard in the interviews, these guys were young and fiery, and there was a lot of partying going on. There's a lot of like loudmouths and stuff like that happening back then, and so I think everybody felt like ooh, it's like the gunslinger attitude, like this guy's trying to come along and take my whatever. I'm not saying any of these guys in particular had that, but you would see it in interviews and guitar magazines and stuff. Like, what do you think about any of the new breed of guitar players? These guys come along. Do you like any of them? Not really. They're just trying to cop my licks. Or they would say things like that. Like a lot of those guys, they would kind of have these rivalries. It was funny if you look at the old interviews, and that doesn't really exist now. And I think everybody got older, and everybody's like, well, who cares? There's kind of room for like it just seemed like high school sort of talk or something, right? Like when you get out of your early 20s or whatever, it's like nobody really talks like that anymore. So I think it was just the era and the age and kind of the bands like those, especially like LA bands and stuff, they seemed like gangs back then. Like, we're a gang, like Motley Crue or whatever, like they would have, it was like they were a tight-knit unit or whatever, that like, and their fans, and that was part of the thing, was like, it was like a team, and then you rooted for your team or something. There was like an element of it. This is all it's kind of funny if you think about it now, but I mean, Randy, to me, he wasn't really, he was a very different guitar player than Eddie, like, right, like super different. I think there was a lot more probably similarities between like Warren and George Lynch, and Jake kind of had his, like, I'm talking about the best of the best here, like Warren and in the style of riffs they wrote and stuff, like Warren and George were, and I guess Jake to a degree, but there was a similarity there, but all those guys were friends. I think they were all pretty, certainly Jake and Warren were super tight, I think. And George, just to a degree, I think too. So it's interesting to me. So while there was rivalry, there was also camaraderie, I think, amongst them. The Guitar Effect says, when you're touring, do you normally have a patch per song? That's a good question. Or just 4 or 5 main patches for your main sounds? I do this both, Rob. I have like specific songs that would require a specific sound with maybe a timed delay or stuff. I don't like doing a lot of like tap delay or that kind of thing. I like having like the I don't want to tap at the beginning of a song necessarily. I mean, occasionally I do, but I'll just make a preset that has the delay time that's right for that song, and then I'll call that up. But so having said that, like probably 7 times out of 10, I've got a bank of like 5 patches that go from clean to really dirty at the end, and I'll use one of those for a lot of the sounds, for like especially the stuff that I'm doing, say with Classic Rock Show when I was on tour with them in the UK. A lot of the sound is just a straight up crunch sound. You don't need anything beyond that. So I'll have that. There's my straight up rhythm crunch, a lead with some delay, it's like a lot of this that you don't need for a lot of that music, like specific modulation or different things. It's just, kind of rock and roll guitar sounds. So I'll use a bank of 5 tones. So this is the main thing I go to. And then I probably have 2 other banks with specific presets for the various songs. And it seems like I do that a lot on pretty much like every tour I do these days. Yeah. King of the Mountain says, I'm a gentleman. Hey, thanks. What did you really think of the Bossurus? I think it's cool. I think it's a specific, like, first of all, it's a well-made guitar. Made in Japan. They do the guitar nicely. The neck feels good. The frets are great. The pickups sound good in the guitar. It's a well-made Japan-made guitar. So out of the gate, there's that. The built-in synth thing is polarizing. I recognize that, but it's also the kind of thing where a young guitar player, like, I think it's the kind of thing that if somebody's 19 or 20 or 21 and they get a hold of one, they could build their sound around it to a great degree. When we think about something like a Tom Morello building a sound around the neck pickup, he always played the neck pickup. It's interesting, right? The bridge pickup is always off in his guitars, and he uses the toggle like a kill switch, but all his sounds are neck pickup. It's kind of fascinating to me. But anyway, Morello, whammy pedal, a couple other pedals, building his style really, and all the effects in the loop of his amp, right? And coming up with some really unique, cool guitar parts and sounds. Well, the Boss guitar is kind of like that. Like you heard the one sound I did in the video, maybe if you watched the video, with the synth low bass that I can turn on and off. Like that could be a whole thing. You could develop a whole album of riffs around, when I think about bands like Royal Blood or different bands that have low, I believe he plays bass most of the time and then adds kind of the top end for the guitar-like sounds. But you could do it the other way and have the guitar and then be playing the low end with the synth bass on the Urus, right? And you could develop a whole album of riffs, like switching between just the guitar and then the low synthy bass thing. So that's what I think about it. I think that if you're a forward-thinking kind of guitar player and you want something different, Matt Bellamy, kind of guitar player, or a Morello kind of guitar player, you might make it your thing. There's organ sounds and things in it where it's got, like sounds like a B3 sort of thing. That stuff to me is a little bit more gimmicky. That's nothing saying somebody won't use it and to great effect, but you know what I mean. But more the straight up sort of square wavy synthy lead, and also the big fat synth bass things that you can switch on and off and then control the filter on the knob. You could definitely develop creative parts with that if you're that kind of guitar player. And young people, somebody's saying, oh no, Pete, internet, is there something wrong with my internet? No, I hope not. Everybody let me know that you can see it good, because I got new internet this week. So I'm just going to double check and make sure the stream's running good right now, just real quick. I had internet problems last week, and I'm just going to do a little speed test here. Had internet problems last week, got fed up, and went and dialed in new internet this week. Well, my download's pretty screaming fast, looks like. So if your stream looks awesome, says Arthur. Good. Yeah, everybody's saying I'm good. Must be someone else having. Yeah, I've got screaming like almost 500 megabyte download, and my upload is up around 20, so I'm good on my end. Yeah, I shouldn't have any more internet problems. I took on a new bill this week and dialed in some new internet. So so we should be good after last week's debacle. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Bill says, I think the kids now should be forced to put weights on a record to slow it down and learn a lead part. Then they can do the new stuff. Transcribe will work well for that without putting weights on a record. I love Transcribe for learning music, man. It's really been like a godsend, made me a better guitar player. It's great software, and I bought it. I didn't get it for free. I endorse it heartily and wholeheartedly. Terrific software. From Seventh String, Transcribe. That's your phrase trainer. It's amazing. Good stuff. I know there's other ones out there too that do a similar thing, slow things down, isolate parts and all that, but Transcribe's great. Who's this? Who is this? Edgy or Unge? I love your work. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your experience, passion, and cool, positive vibe. Much needed in current times more than ever. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I feel that too. I mean, part of the reason why I want to go play live is just go play around some people and stuff and get out of the away from social media a little bit, maybe, and do some actual, like, hanging with people and stuff like that. Just get away, because I'm feeling it lately, like we're all feeling it, but yeah, the negative vibes and stuff like that. It's taking its toll a little bit on me, to be honest, and I gotta be just be honest about it, like my own mental health and stuff like that. I just need to play and keep focused. When I'm playing, I'm really happy. And when I've been working on this music, it's a great therapy for me to get ready for a gig and stuff. So working on Van Halen music, and it's like you can't think about anything else. That's the beauty of working on music. It takes you away from, and playing guitar. All your attention is focused on it, and it resets your brain. You know, I love that therapeutic aspect of it. It's like meditation in a way or something, you know. It's not necessarily quieting your mind, I guess, like meditation, but it's focusing on something that cuts out all the noise. I'm curious which amp and rig you plan for the EVH tribute show. Well, I'm still developing that, but I'm putting together a little board. And I think the way I'm leaning right now, just for ease of travel and stuff like that, is and this may surprise some, but I'm going to have 3 412s. That's not ease of travel, but I want to do it because I want to do full wet, dry, wet thing for this. And three Sur 412s, my signature 412s. And I think what I'm going to do as far as the guitar sounds thing is actually a quad Cortex capture of my SL68. The purists are going to be mad. With vintage Phase 90, EVH flanger, probably the UA delay on an Echoplex setting, and that's it. And then I'm doing, the split to wet, dry, wet within the quad Cortex. And how am I amplifying it? I'm using a Matrix 3-channel GT1500 power amp. I've had some people say, really? Is that what you're going to do? And then I'll go, come in my room and listen to it. And then I'll play it and they'll go like, holy shit. So it's working pretty good. It sounds great. So I think just because I can put all that together and fly with it, not the 412s, but everything else, I can make work on an airplane. And it's loud, and as loud as you want it to be, and it sounds really, really, really good. So I think it just makes sense for this particular thing. Now, if I was to add an amp to it, like I've done, loaded down the SL68 and then ran it into the Sur reactive load into the quad Cortex for a little bit of reverb and stereo delay and stuff, and then gone into the power amp. So it's basically a loaded down version, loaded down reamped version, much like Edgy was doing around the mid 80s. That sounds really great, and it maybe sounds a hair better. But I'm talking about it's a hair better. You hear it in the low end, all right, that's got a little thing to it that's pretty cool. But when you go back to the other one, you're like, it's pretty damn solid, and avoids having to use an amp head in the load box and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where I've always said it. I mean, it's why in the PT15 that we have a built-in load and stuff, and made it, it's like you use what you want to have a versatile rig that it's gig dependent. What's the budget for the gig, and what makes sense? How can you get there, and how do you do it? And it's like, that's why I've done, everything from a pod to full-blown multi-amp, setups. It's all about the budget and stuff. So anyway, seems to make sense. Yeah. This is a great comment. You can't replace Edgy. Edgy is impossible to replace. He's a legend. He's a the guy came up with all that stuff when he was 21, 22, 23. I mean, even when you hear him in the mid 70s, 75 and stuff, you hear these bootlegs. He was just an unbelievable guitar player. So that's some of my favorite playing from him, is actually when he's really young and not doing the tapping thing so much, actually. You know what's funny about learning a lot of these songs? Like Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, like there's not a lot of tapping going on. Out of all these songs I've been learning, this is not very much tapping, And we think of him as the tapping guy, and later on in solos live, he would do a lot of, tapping and stuff. But it's like that early, he kind of got away from doing the great big stretches like he would do in, the Ice Cream Man solo or something, those types of licks. And he moved more towards the tapping thing later, and got, these both were great. But I really enjoy that when he was like, I really enjoy the Destroyer stuff with no whammy bar and the wide stretch stuff that he used to do, It's a really great era. But anyway, he was doing that when he was a teenager. It's just amazing guitar playing. And he was so inventive. And so he can't be replaced because he came up with all that stuff. It's like you might be able to play it and get close and sound similar and all that and do but there's no replacing the guy that wrote or created all that stuff. There's no, that's just not a thing. Like, it's like he was a force of nature when it came to coming up with these amazing guitar riffs and amazing licks and phrasing and sounds and the whole thing, the whole package, So until somebody comes along that does that on that level, it's anyways. Doris says you're not using the Eventide pitch factor. You can do pitch in the Quad Cortex. It's got a pitch block. So in order to do the pitch sounds, I made a couple I'm giving away all my secrets here. I made a couple of presets where I've got like a 9 up, 9 down on either side of the wet, dry, wet, just within the Quad Cortex. So that's one of the things I was talking about, where you got to like, yeah, sure, it'd be nice to have an actual eventide and stuff like that. But in the interest of saving, how can you do it and fly and not add one more thing that maybe pushes your board over weight? These are some of the concerns. And the pitch block in the Quad Cortex sounds great. So it's works really good. The reverb's great. The effects are limited in the Quad Cortex. There's just a few that are, like that's been maybe the main criticism about that, is they need more effects and stuff. But the effects that are in it sound great. The reverbs, the delays, the pitch, very nice. So I think you'd agree if you heard it. It sounds really terrific. So, yo, Pete, have you played through the Marshall Studio Vintage combo? So this is a good question. I played a Studio Vintage head this week that Dave Friedman just tweaked a little bit for somebody, and it's a great sounding amp, I must say. And I think Dave said, well, it didn't quite sound like this before I did it, but because I didn't play it before he got to it, but whatever he did to it, he made a couple changes and stuff like that. I think he, to kind of warm it up a little bit and do a couple things to it to just kind of smooth it out. It had this great, like, I'm talking the on 10 Van Halen thing. I listened to a couple other sounds, but the cranked thing, man, that amp sounds really good, I have to say. So if you want a great version of that sound, you could get one of those and have Dave do some tweaks. I think the mods, or a couple $100. So factor that in. And I compared it to my 50 watt back there, my 7250, and it was really, really close. My 50 sounded a bit more aggressive and punchy, but the power amp in the 20 is obviously smaller. It's 20 watts. It's a cathode bias EL34 kind of affair. So a little bit different sound. It had that like a little bit smoother sound to it, like a lot of cathode bias amps have. I don't know if you can attribute it to that power amp or not entirely, but great sound nonetheless. Like, I was very, very impressed with it, to the point where I was like, should I get one of these? I don't need one of these. I have lots of that type of amp, but it was really nice sounding. So nice amp. It was impressive. Now the combo I did play, I've played one of the Studio Vintage combos as well, and I thought it sounded cool. But I didn't put it through the paces as much as the head that David modded, and I borrowed from him for a minute because I just wanted to try it. I wonder what these things sound like. I get a lot of questions like yours on the people asking me, and I will say it was, I had nothing bad to say about it. It was pretty impressive. When you see them on the inside, they're a little like, I don't know, it's okay. They're a little rinky-dink on the inside, but who cares if it sounds good, I guess, right? Honestly. I would love to see someone bust out a Randy Rhoads guitar on the Van Halen tribute in the spirit of old rivalry. Yeah, that'd be great. A polka dot V, Carl Sandoval V. Yeah. What else we got here? Who makes transcribe software? It's a company called Seventh String, I believe. If you look for transcribe phrase trainer software on Google, do a little search and you'll find it. But I believe the company is Seventh String that makes it. It's $49, I think, and well worth it. I love it. If you're learning songs with like iTunes or something, you'll never go back. It's so much better being able to. For instance, with the Van Halen tracks, since all the guitar is in the left channel generally, you can just pan to the right very easily using it and have no guitar. So now you got yourself a jam track. Or you can pan to the left and have more guitar. Or you can go middle and take Dave out using the karaoke function on it. Allows you to center channel defeat kind of thing. And then you've got really just a lot of guitar, which makes the licks easier to learn. You can slow things down. And the biggest thing, well, maybe not the biggest thing, but one thing that is super awesome is the ability to move the track up and down in semitones. So you can, if your guitar is in a different tuning, you can bump the track up and down. But also, in between semitones, you have a fine pitch adjustment. And if anybody's ever tried to learn Van Halen 1 or 2 songs, they know that the guitar is not in E or E flat. It's somewhere in the middle. Because he used to just tune the guitar to itself, and Mike would tune the bass to the guitar, and then they'd track. So it's not cut. There's no click tracks. There's no tuners going on in that music. you know. So that's part of it. So there you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the transcribe software allows you to, you know, I find generally I got to tune somewhere between like -20 and -35 cents, in order to, because they're not in E flat, they're up, you know, it's that much. It's like right, like kind of drifting almost towards E. So on some songs, not on every song, just on some songs. It depends on the tune. The neat thing is then what you can do is store your transcribed files. Like once you've got that track set like that, and you can also store loop points. Like if you want to work on a solo or section or something, you can set the loop point, store that, and then you can always go back to that later. And then, well, let's work on the solo now. Loop it, slow it down to 70% speed. The tuning, having the track tuned just right, like all of this stuff, EQ, like if you want to pull the bass out some so you can more hear the guitar, you can do all that stuff. And then you can store that file like in a, just on your computer, you know, it's like, and then the next time you open up that song, it'll all be the same, all your stuff. So you can go back to practicing exactly the way that you were. That's amazing for learning songs. Really, really great. Dave says, can you give details of the EVH tribute? So go to mitchmalloy.com, exactly like it sounds, mitchmalloy.com. And on his website, you'll see all the details with dates, times, other stuff, you know. And I'll be posting about it as well. It's a little ways off still. We're about a month out or something. Yeah, something like that. So plenty of time to get the details sorted, but it's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. John says one more, looking for a single coil telly. Any suggestions, brands, bodywoods, any info? I'm completely new to tellies. You know, it depends on how much you want to spend and stuff. I mean, I'm a huge Sir fan. If you want a beautiful, you know, those are my guitars. So if you want a beautiful, gorgeous instrument that, you know, you can keep for a long time, that's, you know, their guitars are great. So look at a Sir. If you're looking for a less expensive guitar, I guess you could look at something like, you know, what Fender's doing in Mexico, and they've got some great guitars, you know, that are in the around $1,000 range, you know. And I would just woods, you know, generally speaking, like an ash telly is going to be a little airier and lighter sounding, a little bit more scooped, and an alder one with a rosewood board will maybe be a little bit more balanced with focus mids. It's just a general thing. So hope that's somewhat helpful. Let's see here, a little super chat there. Did you ever get to meet Eddie? Yeah, we were pals for about 10 years. I met him originally in 2008 or 9, and then we stayed in contact until he passed away. So, thoughts on Rebel Yell pickups? I have them in my guitar that you can see right there. As a matter of fact, that Nags that I've had for about 7 years now. That's my go-to when I need something hot and mid-rangey and punchy, you know, like a hot rod, you know, Les Paul. It's a hot rod Les Paul. That's really what that guitar is. And I think for that sound, you know, aggressive, you know, sizzly mids and stuff, they're cool. Works great for that. If you want to hear that guitar and those pickups, you can hear me use it in my video for the Richard Fortis Mick Mars Jose Mod Marshall that I did a while back on my channel. And I played Dr. Feelgood with it. And you can hear the sound of, and maybe why I used that guitar and stuff for it, you know. You'll hear when you hear that video. I have a Marshall 7250 watt like you. How do you dial in your Marshall these days? Just put it on 10. I only have captor X and aux. I need to know best way to do it. Are you okay? Are you talking about to capture it with the reactor? Are you talking about recording? When you say capture, I think of the quad Cortex, and I'm wondering if that's what you're trying to do. But I think what you're just saying is to record it. Correct me if I'm wrong, though, in the chat. You know, it's kind of arbitrary and like depends on what you're. It's call up a cabinet. Use a cabinet in the aux or in the Captor X that you would think you would like in the real world. If you're a G12H30 guy or a green bag guy, start there. If you like 57s, start there. Do the kind of always replicate what you think you would like in the real world, in the virtual world. That's what I would suggest there. As far as setting up the amp goes, it really depends on your individual Marshall and what kind of bright cap is in it. I mean, they vary widely depending on how aggressive the bright cap is. And Marshalls of that era can tend to be one-trick ponies a little bit, where they just sound great when you turn them up to a point. There it is. And anything lower is like, oh, God, it's bright. And that's because of the bright cap generally on those amps. So, it just depends, which you can kind of counteract to some degree by jumpering the channels and blending in the volume 2, the normal channel, a little bit. There's other tones to be had in them, but that's just the thing. They can tend to be one-trick ponies when you put a bright cap in them, but it's a great trick. That's the thing. There's no free lunch. It's great to have like the bright cap on a switch, because if you don't have the bright cap on, the amp's very linear across the whole range of the volume pot, and you get a bunch of great sounds in there. But there tend to be more relaxed sounds than that one sound that the bright cap, when the volume 1 is on 7 or whatever, and it's like it just gets full enough, but it's got this snarl. And like when you don't have any bright cap, you don't get that snarl no matter where you are on the range. So you get this wide range of usable tones or one sound that really kicks ass. So does that make sense? So that's the biggest thing. And Philip says I missed his super chat. Sorry, buddy. I'll look back and try and find it right now. Where are you? I'm not going anywhere. So, I can look. There it is. I found you, Philip. I'm sorry, my friend. How is your trim set up on your signature guitar? I got the new PRS Fiore. I believe that's the model made for, oh my God, why am I spacing? He's a pal of mine. Shit. Help me before I embarrass myself further. Fiore, help somebody in the chat. What's the matter with me? He played on my second solo record. I can't believe I'm like spacing. Come on, Snarky Puppy. I do this sometimes. I can't remember people's names. Mark Lettieri, thank you. God damn it. I could see his face and I knew his name started with M and I couldn't think of it. Does that ever happen to anybody? Do I need to be worried? Is this cognitive decline? It's like, I know this fellow, he's a great guy. He's an amazing guitar player. And sometimes I just can't remember people's names. I happen to be like a couple of years ago, I noticed, I went into a bar that I frequent, and there was a bartender who I hadn't seen for a while because I'd been out traveling and stuff, like on tour and stuff. But I saw her and I couldn't remember her name. I knew her name. I'd seen her for a couple of years, and it was like I knew it. Like, why can't I remember that person's name? And it just wasn't there. It wasn't coming back. Oh my God, do I need Prevagen? What is it? Anyways, sorry, I completely ignored your question. How is the trem set up on the signature guitar? I am having a hard time getting used to the floating bridge. Any tips? Is the problem that you're putting your hand on it and going out of tune? Because like everybody from, lots of people, Eddie Van Halen didn't like that. He liked the bridge to be fixed because he didn't like the way that it would go sharp when he did his palm mutes. Other people just work around it and they get used to it, so it's like there's no right or wrong way. And if you feel like you don't like it, you could block it. You could set it up so it's all the way back and touches the body and stuff like that. It's fine. I set my guitars up so that, generally speaking, my signature guitars, I set them up so that the bridge I want to be able to pull up on the G string a whole step and on the second string a half step. It just seems like a cool musical sort of setup for me. So I'll set them up like that, where I'll actually just like, if I'm holding down, say the E on the 9th fret of the G string, I can pull up then to the F sharp at the 11th fret. And then I'm okay, there's right. And that sort of loosely corresponds to about a half step on the second string. And it also means that the bridge for me on my guitars is generally just leaning a little bit forward from parallel with the body. So that's how I set mine. Works for me. It's kind of a funny thing though, because I've been working on all these Van Halen songs for this show and I'm getting very used to a Floyd that's blocked. It's just like a different thing. And I'm like, oh no, is this, It kind of messes with you when you go between guitars. Then if you're playing one thing a lot and trying, it's like being an actor, that's the thing. Okay, this is when you're learning stuff. Somebody said this to me once. It made a lot of sense to me. When you're a sideman or you're learning someone else's material, you're like an actor playing a role. That's what it's like. So you put on their clothes, and that's what the guitar is, right? You put on, and then you take on the mannerisms, and that's the phrasing. It's exactly like acting. And then you can kind of get into that role, and then maybe it's hard to get out of that role. Right? It's kind of funny. So anyways, brain farts, says Scott. Yeah, I have them. It's just such a ugh. Anyways, would you ever consider doing a podcast of you noodling or any future albums planned? I'm not really a noodler. I think noodling is kind of boring. I don't like watching other people noodle. I like performances or that kind of thing, or a dedicated kind of like a purpose, but just sitting, I can't, I get really, really bored of like either Instagram or YouTube things where people are just kind of playing licks and playing. It's like there's no musical context for me. That's the problem. Like there's no song going on. So I just like songs. But anyways, I don't know if that's what you meant. Future albums planned for sure. Maybe an EP would be the next thing for a certain purpose that I have coming up. Something that I want to do in particular. That'll be the next thing, and that's actually something I really need to start thinking about soon. So, like a collection of maybe 3 songs is what I'm thinking. That I should be getting into probably like November, December, and then for something early in the new year, I'd like to have a few tunes for something. So more on that later. So what are we going to do on Sunday when you go on tour? I still managed to do this, generally speaking, when I went away. Like I don't remember. Oh, on Classic Rock Show, I was able to kind of do it. I don't know if I changed the times. I might have changed the times a little bit, is my memory of it. But when I was over in the UK, I think I would just kind of do it Sunday evenings over there, which was like Sunday morning here, and as long as I had decent internet, it was okay, which most hotels I was in, I would just buy the upgrade internet over there and stuff, and then it worked good. So I'll make it work. I like to think that going on tour, it's part of what I do, and it like I try and still do videos and stuff. I mean, when I was doing the Classic Rock Show tour, or when I go to Japan, I always make rig rundown videos, or trips to guitar stores wherever I am, and I think that's part of it. Like it gets me out of this room and makes the channel more interesting. Hopefully, I think, and it's I'd like to view it as like a positive thing, so it's not just the same old all the time, right? I hope. Neil, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. How many springs do you use? 2 or 3, depending on the bridge and the claw setup, but 2 or 3. And generally, I've got 2 angled on the outside. It depends on your string gauges and stuff. Like on this guitar, like these, for example, these EVH guitar. Oh, this one's got a backplate on it, so you can't see. But I do believe it's 2 angled, like that, on these. But I've got the gauge on this guitar that he used to use. I'm using that because it feels right to me. That's an interesting point, actually. The string gauge is important for playing the licks and getting the sounds, which is a 9, 11, 15, 24, 32, 40 gauge, pure nickel. So I'm doing all that stuff, like to, get, because the feel of the slinky, especially on the G, the 15, when you're doing certain bends, he used to bend the G like a minor third, or sometimes even like 2 whole steps. He would do these crazy bends. And if you've got a heavier G, it slows you down and makes that more difficult. But anyways, byproduct of the lighter strings is that you can just get away with two springs pulling the other way, right? So if you're using 10s or something, you probably need 3. Just depends. It's also geeky and interesting, isn't it? Where did you record PT2? I did a lot of it here in my studio space. It was the old space that I had in this bedroom. It was another room across the hall. And then I did a lot of it in my my old apartment, using the reactive load and the aux to load down the amp and cut parts there. Yeah, generally speaking, that was it. Let's see here. Thank you for your continued contributions. Thanks. Appreciate it. It's newbie. Thank you for being here. Can you recount a live performance that changed you as a player, one that inspired you to grow? Well, this one that I'm about to do. I'm learning a bunch of Van Halen that I've never learned before. It's interesting, and I've never tried to sing the background parts. That'll be fun. Have to do that too. So it's like all those things are making me grow. So that's a current events thing that's happening. Every gig. I mean, learning the Brian May stuff for doing the few gigs that I did with the Ultimate Queen celebration in 2019. That was very interesting. I'd never learned all that, but learning all that stuff, it makes you every tour, man, pretty much every gig. I mean, like Classic Rock Show, I'd never learned the entire solo to Freebird and played it night after night. Could I pick up a guitar and do it right now? No. In about a half an hour, I could probably get it. Well, maybe longer, because the whole solo is like a half an hour in and of itself. So I'd have to go over it a few. So maybe in 2 hours, I'd have it again, because once again, I forget things. But anyway, like I'd never learned that. And so it was really interesting. Or, even learning Pete Townshend's parts and finding some beauty of the internet. I guess it's good and bad. But one of the cool things is you can find these soloed out versions of like Pete Townshend's guitars on Who Are You? Or, and you listen to his playing and then try and internalize that and go like, wow, like the randomness and the kind of the power in it and the phrasing and all that. And you learn something new every time. So like every gig I do, I learn, some new stuff every gig. I don't know. That's the best answer I can give, I think. Yeah. Yeah. What else we got here? Just looking through the chat, backing up a little bit. Do you have any interest in creating a band with a singer? I would love to hook up with the right situation at some point. I just wish, to be honest, I don't know if it's laziness or what, but I don't want to start something from scratch. I wish somebody would at some point just go, hey, that guy can write. Maybe we should get him in our band. And hit me up, and I could become a part of something where maybe I could make use of some of that, because I know I can write. That I am confident of, I can write guitar-based music. So it's like, that would be nice to be a part of something at some point where I'm doing that. Oh, I had an amazing thing happen last night. Speaking of writing guitar-based music and incredible people and players, I was walking down the street in Highland Park last night, which is a neighborhood in LA. It's kind of like north of downtown. And it's a really cool neighborhood with a lot of great, it's kind of like, it's getting gentrified, and it's like, I don't know, up and coming or whatever, but it's an old school neighborhood. It's been there forever. But there's still an element of, there's a little bit of, I don't know, it's kind of like the Brooklyn of LA or something. I really like it. Great hangs and just some good restaurants and stuff. And anyways, what's my point? I'm walking down the sidewalk. There's a great bowling alley. If anybody's in LA, it's unbelievable. It's a great place to visit. It's the Highland Park Bowl, I think it's called. I think it's been there since the turn of the 20th century, and it's completely restored and renovated, but it still like looks like the bowling alleys. Like the alleys are all old, and all the stuff is like, it's incredible in there. It's a really, really great space. This sort of vintage bowling alley, and there's multiple bars. There's 4 bars in there, 2 in the main room where the bowling alley is. They're gorgeous, like big. Just the lighting and everything, it's just really cool. And then there's 2 rooms that have bars in them as well, in the front of the building, and in one of them they have bands play, or sometimes the solo performers. So it's a nice place to see a little intimate kind of show. Not a big room, but cool. So I'm walking down the sidewalk past there last night, and a guy stops me on the sidewalk and goes, "You're Pete Thorn, I like what you do and the videos you make and stuff. Nice guy." And he says, "Are you coming to see the show in here?" And I go like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Alan's playing." I go, "Alan who?" And he says, "Alan Johannes." Now, to those out there probably know who Alan is. He's an amazing musician, first of all. But the band 11 went on to work with Chris Cornell on the Euphoria Morning album. Absolutely, integral part of that album and that sound and the writing and the guitar parts, and his spirit and sensibilities and stuff are all over that record. Worked with Chris later on lots of different stuff, but as well as them Crooked Vultures, Desert Sessions, like his own solo work. Like he's worked with a lot of people. And I've just never seen him do his own solo thing. So I was like, oh my God, is he? And I've met him. Actually, the first time I met him was at Chris's service after Chris passed away. We'd connected on the internet before that and talked back and forth. But, we both guitar players that worked with Chris. And so we had that bond, and he loved Chris and I loved Chris. And so when he saw me at Chris's service, he's just the nicest guy. He came up to me. I'd never met him. And he came up to me and he just gave me this great big bear hug, which we all needed that day. And I just really, really like him as a person. He's a great guy, big heart. And anyway, so there he is on the sidewalk last night. Now I've got a mask on. He's got a mask on. So he looked at me and and then I, gave him a big hug. And said, man, I can't believe you're playing in here. And he goes, yeah, I go on in like 10 minutes. So I was like, well, this is serendipity. I'm coming in to see you. So I went inside and he played the most beautiful show, just solo. He used a kind of a cigar box kind of guitar for the whole first half of the set. Maybe 4 strings, I think. And just, if you've never seen him play, I mean, and I'd never seen him in this context, but doing his finger picking thing, he's got flamenco like right hand chops that are amazing, but his writing is so cool and deep. I mean, his melodic, I didn't realize what an amazing singer he is actually in that context. Like seeing him at a solo show, it really nails it home. Holy shit. It was just an amazing show. So 4 strings on this little cigar box guitar and him singing. And I was just completely captivated. It was great. And then he went to a 12-string guitar for a track and for a song. And that was amazing what he did on that. And then he went to a 6-string for the last couple of songs. And it was just a really, really amazing show. Like really, really brilliant. I can't believe I was just walking down the sidewalk. And I so thank the fellow that stopped me on the sidewalk, because otherwise I just would have kept going. I was going to go have one drink and then go home at a bar just down the street. And instead I saw that amazing gig. So it was really cool. But he's a really, really wonderful musician. So that was so cool. These are the kind of things that happen in LA that you wouldn't get to experience, if you were somewhere else. So I love that stuff, just running into somebody like that. And he's a world-class musician. Really amazing. Eric says, with touring starting to open up, can you break down some of the cost to fly with gear, bag fees? I actually have no idea because I haven't for 2 years. So things may have changed. So I don't know. We're going to find out. But generally speaking, you can find all that stuff on websites, and you might have to pay for an extra bag or something. I tend to try and the one thing that I recommend, if you can, is that if you're flying somewhere and you need something that day to perform, don't check it. If it's a guitar or your pedal board or something, make it small enough so you can maybe carry it. Because what happens if it doesn't get on the plane, especially if you've got a connection, you need to take those things into consideration with travel. Like, what are you going to do when you get there if it didn't get on the plane? You're going to be up the creek, So that's a concern. If you've got a couple days before the gig, or even a day, you're probably okay, especially if you're flying domestically. They'll get it to you later that day, or probably the next day if something's delayed. But it's important to consider that big oversized items like guitar cases and pedal boards and things like that are sometimes the first things to get bumped. It always seems, the overweight kind of odd size stuff sometimes gets, oh, we're not gonna put that on the plane because we're overweight or whatever. We'll hold it and put it on the next flight. And that stuff happens. So, but just to be aware of like when you're making a pedal board, let's say, and the weight limit is 50 pounds or whatever for, your pedal board is like 36 pounds or something, you might be overweight by the time you put it in a case. You probably will be. Your case is probably going to weigh more than 14 pounds. So you got to weigh all this stuff, have a scale, have something so you can weigh things and know before you get to the airport, like what you're getting into and that kind of thing, so that you're just prepared, for these things. So, yeah. Now, with all that said, what I just said about losing things and stuff, I like flying with instruments these days that I don't necessarily like have like when I see Bonamassa on flights, he's doing it the right way, but it's like, man, he's flying with like vintage bursts and stuff, and he always buys a seat for them, you know. Well, okay, you could do that, but if barring that, like if you're not going to do that, it's like, what do you fly with? And I don't generally like carrying guitars on planes if I don't have to. So I'll bring a guitar that's a working tool that I don't have like this incredible attachment to, like one of my vintage guitars or something, you know. I'll bring a guitar that's just a good solid working tool, and I'll put it in a great case and check it, and not do the whole gig bag on a plane. Is it going to get, are they going to want to gate check it, or they get all that stuff that where it's like, uh-oh, you know. A friend of mine recently, she had a Strandberg guitar. She brought it on the plane in a gig bag, and somebody moved it or something in the closet. She's, I don't really understand what happened, but it didn't get checked. I was like, how did that happen? The body split from the kind of the bottom horn of the guitar all the way through to the bridge is a massive split. And she thinks somebody picked it up in the closet and shoved it like in the back or something like that, or put something on top of it, like on the plane in the, you know, in the closet, like in first class or wherever they took it and put it in a closet for, and then, you know, how people just shove shit in there and stuff. And so anyway, the whole guitar was split in half. It was unbelievable. And that was in a gig bag on the plane. It's like, ugh. So these days, I've got a couple great, a Gator and an SKB that are those, you know, molded really, really like with the big fat TSA latches and stuff. I've got those for like Strat or Telly, a couple like universal fit cases. And then I've got A&S road cases, like big full on road cases for a Strat and a Les Paul. So I'll fly one of those and just put the guitar under the plane and not think twice about it. I have one for an acoustic too. And that's if I know that getting there, I've got at least a day before the gig, so that if the thing doesn't make it on the first flight, it'll get on the next one and get delivered to me. Anyway, that's some of my suggestions. Yeah. Eric says, your sub-octave golden throat. Do you ever do radio? Did you ever do radio? Would you ever consider doing radio? I'd actually love to do radio or do voiceovers. You know, I'd love to get in the voiceover game. To make a little studio at home with a little booth and sit there with a nice mic. And I have all this stuff. I could do it now. Go to work in the morning, make coffee, and, you know, do my voiceovers for the day. Okay. I want to buy a Strandberg. Speaking of, do you like the necks? I personally can't. I don't even understand what's going on there with that neck, with the square thing in the back and everything. I tried it, and I'm like, this is the weirdest thing ever. And some people are like, oh, you get used to it, but you know, I don't know. I find them really not off-putting, but just strange. Like, I recognize that, like, I'm an older guy or whatever, and it's like I don't, you know. But you know, you kids these days with your crazy headless guitars and your square necks. It's very weird, but that's just me. Let's just say, with the Fender Cyber amps, the MIDI controller alone probably weighs 20 pounds by itself. In a case, it would be overweight and oversized. Yeah, I mean, you know, generally speaking, you got a backline stuff. Like, you're not going to be flying with an amp, you know. The PT-15 is actually light enough that I think, I haven't tried it, but I kind of wanted to make a backpack or a shoulder bag for that amp. And it actually might fit in some of the stuff that I have that's like that already, the bags I have. But I thought, I think I could put this in like a backpack and carry it on a plane. And it would be cool, you know, because they're not that heavy. They're 24 pounds, a PT-15. So, but, you know, I digress. I've got a great case that I had made. You can use, you know, various companies to do this stuff, but I've got a great road case that A&S Cases made for me years ago. It's kind of a square / rectangular shape, and it fits a Sir Badger head, which is the exact same size as the PT-15. I was like, if we're making a PT-15, let's make it fit in a Badger head shell. So it's for those that don't know, it's the same size as a Badger. And maybe selfishly, one of the reasons was I knew I had this road case that I could drop that head in. And then in the back, there's a slot for like a small pedal board, which fits. There's a little pedal board actually sitting right there. You can see it. It's that little board that's sitting on top of that 1176 over there with the, you know, a few pedals. That's the board that I had made to fit in that slot. So small pedal board, but you could also put like an HX effects or something in there and stuff some cables or whatever, a couple odd pedals, whatever. And then there's a drop down thing in the lid that you can put cables in and stuff. That case with just the head in it, it's probably getting close to 50 pounds. But if you're careful, you could probably not bring too much other stuff. You'd probably be right about the weight limit. It's got rollers. It's got a handle that pops up with a retractable handle, great road case. So I had that made for one-offs and flights and stuff. And I've used it a little bit, for things like that. And you can get things made like that to make your life easy. Little pedal board, little amp. Nowadays there's so many light amps and stuff like that too. There's ways to do this stuff and still use an amp. Super chat there from Jeff. Have you ever played with Griff Hamlin and his Single Barrel Blues Band? I don't know that band. Thanks, Jeff. I'll have to watch out for them. I haven't heard them. I have not. That's cool. Dave says he saw Joe Satriani at West LA Library. Really? That's an interesting venue. The library and loud guitar. That doesn't seem like but it's LA, so it's a wacky place. That's cool. Interesting. What do we got here? Mark says, I had my PV Ultra Plus 120 head modified. Seen Dave Friedman on the mods on an amp. But so Dave did the mods? Mine sounds amazing, like early EVH 1 and 2. Cool. Those are good amps. A lot of those PV amps, what was it? The Butcher and the VTM was kind of very Jose. Kind of a Marshall with Jose mods in it that if you set the switches a certain way, they weigh about 4 million pounds and they're built really funny. I know they're not the easiest amps to work on and stuff, but the guts are, the circuit and stuff is good. So it's an interesting thing. What would you rather have, Vox hand-wired AC30 or the Marshall Studio Series combo? Well, it depends on what you're doing. It sounds like you want a combo, and if you want to play AC/DC or Deep Purple or bordering on Van Halen, maybe you're going to want to go with the Marshall. A hand-wired AC30 is a much different sounding amp to me. It's the AC30 thing. So if I was playing Keith Scott tones or Brian May tones or more Britpop or something, I would go with the AC30. I love, or the Beatles for that matter. I love AC30s too. I love both sounds, but they're very different sounds. So just what is it that you want to do? Pedal Pal 800 V3. What is your opinion? Sorry, I don't know that. What is that? Is that an 800 style pedal of some sort? Yeah, you got me wondering, so I'm going to take a look. Pedal Pal 800. Always keep a window open for Google so you can sound like you know what you're talking about. PAL 800 V3 Gold Overdrive. Yeah, I've never seen this thing. Interesting. It definitely looks like a Marshall. Volume, presence, gain, bass, middle, and a treble. A 34 switch. We know what that does. Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. Sorry. Q voicing. I guess that's... No, G voicing. G voicing. What does that mean? G. I don't know. 1 and 2 must have like two different sort of gain situations. Haven't tried this thing. I'm interested. It's interesting how many, there's a lot of Marshalls in boxes out there, but I still like to try them all and see which ones. Here's one right here that I did a video of this week. It's very nice. For those that weren't here earlier, the Volta 1987 V2, featuring 2 channels, one for your classic Plexi flavors and the other one for a boosted over-the-top modded Marshall mayhem tone. Enjoy. I'm such a nerd. Help ya boy out and beat the YouTube algorithm. Hit like. It's true, it's crowded out there these days. Tough to get the views and the likes. But we're a fun little community here. We don't need everybody. Have you ever jammed with Miley? I did a gig with Miley. I played the Chris Cornell tribute show at the Forum, and we did. You can see a version of us doing. What song did we do? Two Drink Minimum by Chris. It's a blues, and it's just me and her. So it was standing up there with my Martin and Miley Cyrus and 17,000 people, and she sang the hell out of it. It was great. I loved it. She was rad. I'd love to play with her. She's cool. Like amazing singer and great attitude. She's totally rock and roll and just like fun, and I like that girl. She was cool. We had a good time. She showed up and she's like so confident. She just walks out and is like, "All right, let's do this." Like it's an arena. One kid with an acoustic guitar that she just met. And then we do it, and it was like she's a pro. She's a rock star, is what she is. It's a certain DNA, and she's got it. So I'm a fan. Pete, why not form your own band? Just because I've done it a bunch of times, and I'm older now, and it's a lot of work, and it's like I don't know that I want to work that hard again. I mean, I'm not saying I won't do it, but it's like I'm more like I'm cool with recording my own music, maybe doing like one-off shows where I play with some people or whatever, but like doing a whole vocal project and putting together, it's like you got to understand, like I did that 20 years ago, right? With numerous different bands where, rehearsing and writing songs and going through, the process of demoing. And, I mean, I'm talking going back to 1992. That's what I was doing. I spent 92 through about 2004 doing various projects like that, releasing records, doing tours in vans, tours making no money, very little money to pay rent and that kind of stuff, and trying to make projects like that work. And then when I hit my 30s, especially like my mid to late 30s, you hit a point where you're like, I don't know if I've got that kind of thing in me anymore, exactly, or the desire, but I sure do enjoy going on tour and performing music with people. And, you just hit a different point where it's like most of the people that do that stuff, like bands with, they're like young guys, or girls, I don't know. There's great people out there that still tour and do their thing, and they're solo artists, and they're, both in the, pop, country, blues, whatever. I think about my friends like Josh Smith. I mean, he works his ass off doing stuff like that, and he's like, I guess he's about 40 now, something like that. And touring, doing his thing, but that's really like his thing, like that solo artist trio format. He's got that dialed, I was always more a band guitar player with a singer kind of guy, and like more mainstream, maybe. Like I'm not a blues artist, I was more into playing in rock bands, so I mean, if you go back and you look at the 40 Foot Echo album, if you haven't, I was in this band called 40 Foot Echo. We released a record, Hollywood Records, years ago. I did that whole record, went on tour with those guys, all across the US and Canada. There's a record called Snapdragon, band I was in the early 2000s. Worked on that for 5 years. There was numerous other bands that I played with and stuff where I got in, went on tour, and just did all that stuff. So that's really why. Is that enough? I'm sorry, I'm getting long-winded about all that. I sound like a whiner. You just hit a different point in your life, Anyways, Miley crushed it at that tribute show. I really felt like the Chris Cornell tribute was the show where she, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I just don't know my Miley Cyrus history, but I feel like that was where she arrived. Like, hey, I rock and I'm legit and I kick ass and you're going to hear more from me. And now she's been, for the last few years, been everywhere, it seems, and always killing it. Like, you can't see her singing and not go, all right, she's like ruling right now. Like, she sounds really amazing singing. And she just kind of like, she grew up or whatever and came into her own as an artist. And she's got that thing. She's a rock star, I felt like, she took a lot of heat and seeing her in the like earlier phases of her career, which was really young, but she was doing like outrageous, crazy stuff, and it was kind of like, what's she doing? Like sometimes, like it was like, but she was just finding her way, and she was finding her way in a confusing time with social media, and like, that's like she was always really putting it out there. I mean, it takes a lot of balls to do that, like the way that she did, and then kind of landing on her feet, and now kind of ruling, like really, but like headlining festivals and big hit songs and great band, and she's just really impressive. And I was impressed with her that night. And there was something about going to that show. I was only asked the day before to do it, so it was like literally like Chris's widow, Vicky. She called me and said, "Can you play with Miley Cyrus tomorrow at the Forum?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And okay, it's going to be this song. And so I went and did it, and something told me, like a voice in my head was like, she's going to be really great. Like this is going to be really like, she's going to kill it. And she killed it. It was awesome. And I told her that walking off stage. I go, I knew that was going to be good. I knew you were going to do that. And she's like, thanks. Like, oh man, really, really great. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It was great. I just played with her one song on acoustic, but she also played with Temple of the Dog. All the Pearl Jam guys, and Matt and everything, and did. Actually, was Matt playing drums when they were? I can't remember, but it was basically Temple of the Dog, and she sang "Say Hello to Heaven" and a couple other songs with them. It was rad. Yeah. Good day, Pete from Australia. Oh, that was awful. Sorry. Sorry. Apologies. Sorry. My Canadian coming out. Sorry. That's why older musicians form supergroups. Yeah. What I was saying earlier about not wanting to do, necessarily like starting a band from scratch kind of thing. They do, and they should, because that's what I'm saying. I feel like the folks I'm already out there. Like, people know who I am. I know all these people. Eventually, maybe somebody will ask me to write and play on the record or go on the road again or whatever, like with some band that would, hopefully could use a guy like me or something. So, or if not, that's okay too. I'll continue to do my own thing. When I say I don't want to do my own band, doesn't mean I don't want to write songs or release music. I still want to write songs and release music and do things. I was talking to Tim Pierce a while ago, and I was like, "Are you ever going to do another solo record?" And he goes, "No, maybe he might change his mind, but he said, no, YouTube is my solo record. This is my creative outlet. This is what I do." And to some degree, it's that for me too. Being here and releasing little songs every week, a couple songs a week is kind of what I do. Little 1 minute to 1 minute and 30-second pieces of music. That's part of what I do. And then I go on the road and work for people as a touring guitar player. I'm very happy doing all that, like it takes up most of my time. I don't feel like there's a hell of a lot more time to do. Like, I would have to put some other things aside in order to do a band full time, But if a band asked me to join that was already formed and had a great singer, and they were like, let's write a record together or whatever, I would, if it was the right situation, I'd be all about it. I just don't want to do it from scratch, calling up, "Hey, do you want to be in my band?" With different people, or going on a singer search, or like all that stuff. I don't have it's not in there. Sorry. It's just not, I do my own little creative things in my own way. Like I say, I'm looking forward to, pretty soon I got to write a few tunes and maybe do an EP for the new year. And that'll be instrumental guitar stuff, putting that together. And I've already got to be honest. I mean, I've been asked about touring next year and a couple different things. And it's like more than half the year. So it's like, okay, well, there's next year. Hopefully it all happens. We don't know, because pandemic stuff, and like if it'll all pan out. But it's looking like at least the first, I'm going to do Classic Rock Show first couple months. That'll be January, February, so 2 months on the road. So anyways, Ryan says, "What's up, Pete? Did you check out the Fractal FM9? I have not, actually. I have an FM3. Does anybody out there, maybe you guys can help me understand, does the FM9 differ from the FM3 in any way other than it's got more foot switches, like a bigger, or is there other features? Because I haven't delved into it. I think the FM3 is a great unit. Let me see here. FM9 Fractal. Personally, the 3-button one to me is to me pretty cool. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It looks just basically really similar to the FM3, but with a bigger foot controller, with more, which is useful. I mean, obviously, if you want more foot switches for you're toggling on and off individual effects within a preset kind of thing, or some people might have wanted a slightly bigger form. I mean, it looks kick-ass. Actually, it looks great for what it is. I always get good sounds out of those things too. They're nice. Yeah, same processor as the Axe FX3. So it's basically, it's Dan says more power. So you guys fight it out. Fight it out. Who's right? You or you? You or you or you? More DSP, says Steve. Okay, well, that makes sense. Maybe you can do the split, like 2 amp things and stuff like that. I don't know. Oh, no, wait. Maybe you guys are both saying the same thing. Same processor as the Axe FX3, right? I mean, I don't know, like the processing power and all that. Does anybody need the 2 amp chains and all that? If you're that kind of person that runs those complex rigs, I guess you do. But for me, I'm usually simpler with my processing needs. Having said that, with this quad Cortex rig that I put together, I'm using all 4 cores, I think, because I'm doing a wet, dry, wet thing with one's dry and then splitting down to the next path. And the next I'm doing delays and pitch and stuff in that second path. So I guess I have reasons sometimes where I'm using more complex rigs. Yeah. Auto Audio says, sent you an email. Let's chat about a video. I'm really behind on email right now. I need to devote some time, maybe tomorrow morning, to going through emails and get the backlog of emails. So I'll look for that. Thank you. If you could put together a super group, who would you choose? Oh God, I don't know. You like what genre? I want to be in a band with Johnny Marr. I bet you didn't expect I'd say that. I love Johnny Marr. He's an amazing guitar player, and just musician in general. But I don't know if he'd like me. I want to be in a band with. Yeah, I want to be in a band with Noel Gallagher and Johnny Marr, and I'll play bass. I don't care. Those guys can play guitar. And who else should be in that band? I don't know. I got to think about it for a little bit. That's just the mood I'm in right now. I'm all over the map. Do I think using an aux with the amp heads will still keep the sound integrity of my amp heads and put the cabinets away for a while? It's an interesting thing because I go through phases where I have like my real amps, real cab stuff set up, mics and all that, and then occasionally I'll get into using the load boxes and just doing that for a while. And then when I come back to the cab, I always go, oh, that sounds really good. It's not like night and day, because they've gotten so good in the cabinet simulations and stuff, but there's still something really nice about moving the air and microphones and stuff. So I enjoy both. But I think the long story short is you can be very happy with the aux and get some great sounds that you probably can't get with a typical home studio, because not a lot of us have a great room, for example, to set up room mics, and the option of turning up cabs really loud and having those types of sounds that you can get quite easily with an aux, so that's nice, to have those options. I'm really enjoying the not to toot my own horn, but it's true, I gotta say that the cab sounds I'm getting using the 2 Notes wall of sound. So I'm taking the reactive line out, unfiltered, into my interface, and then I'm pulling up wall of sound on a channel and using the IRs that I just did with them at Sunset Sound. I'm doing that quite a bit. So actually, if you listen to the 1987 video, I'm using that for the cab sounds. And so it's IRs of one of my cabinets that we made. That's I wasn't going to talk about the exact speakers we did and stuff, so I won't tell you exactly what it is, but it's greenbacky, of course. When we release it, we'll tell you exactly what the speakers are in the cabinets and stuff. But it sounds awesome, and it's easy, and it's just like a really idealized version of that tone, and I think it's some of the best sounds I've heard out of their stuff. So they're, I really like my cabinet, so of course I like it, but it captured the sound of that cabinet really, really, really well. So, used it without reservation on my latest demo for this 1987 pedal, and I could have just as easily used the mic cab. So I guess that tells you. I think it's really great technology. What up, Pete? Says Dean. What's happening, man? How are you? Are you going to share your quad Cortex captures and presets? Probably a few specific ones I will, yeah. Maybe not everything, but some things I should make and share, you know. I've made some really nice ones, I think, that sound really good. So Ryan says, can't wait to hear about your 2 notes pack, and Dave's as well. Yeah, Dave's will be cool as well. Some really cool, unique cat. We both tried to pick unique stuff. So that's not the old a 412 with V30s, you know. I mean, there's a little bit of that there, but the majority of both of our packs are unique cabinets with cool vintage speakers, or, you know, yeah, unique cabs, cool vintage speakers. That's kind of the thing. So you're going to get something that you can't get out of any other IR package, I think. Exactly. You know, it's going to be a unique thing that when the cabinets have a little bit of story to them and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Which one of the mini amps did you like the most? You mean between the BE and the Bogner? I thought actually they both sound quite good for what they are. You know, you got to be realistic. I always try and preface those videos with the like, okay, we know what this is. It's basically like a nice overdrive pedal or distortion pedal going into a Class D power amp. You know, but both of them sounded good and they capture the tones. They really just remind me of those pedals, the BE overdrive and the Bogner, maybe somewhere between the red and the blue or something on the Bogner. And, you know, that's good sounding. And, you know, the Bogner is more typically Bogner, big, grindy, full range, where the BE is more Marshall, snarly, you know, the upper mid thing. So it depends on what you want, you know. Have anything planned with Tolman in 2022? You know, I'd love to go back and do what we did over there again. So nothing planned right now, but I should send them an email and ask them what their vibe is on all that. Like, will we ever get back to doing that? Because it was really fun going there and doing those things. So I'd love to do it again. Nothing planned right now, though. They tend to kind of, I will say, like, there's not like, it wasn't like at this point the year before I went and did that event, the Tolman YouTuber kind of event. I didn't know at this point, you know, it was more like January, February, and then we went sometime in March or April or something. So, you know, I think it's, you know, maybe a little bit premature to know. Did everybody hear they're moving NAMM till June? It's interesting, right? It's like, I wonder what's going on over there. Like, if they're just freaking out at the NAMM world headquarters. Because, like, I knew a lot of companies weren't going. I knew Boutique wasn't going to go, Sir wasn't going to go, and I also know Fender, Gibson, like a lot of companies were like, no, we're not going in January. So at that point, it's like, they must have been just like, well, we need to move this, or, you know, we're just going to lose our shirts and nobody's going to go and it's going to be a dismal failure or something. I mean, no, it's got to be like a confusing time. Will it ever happen again in the same way? Did anybody go to Summer NAMM out there that's watching this? Did anybody go? I wonder, like, you know, because like, I wonder what it was like. To me, it would seem that it was probably not a hell of a lot of people there, or a lot of companies. But am I wrong? I don't know. Give me a vibe on what happened. There's really no reason to go. There's not, right now, all the companies that I know, I mean, the folks that I stay in touch with, they're all selling stuff like gangbusters and behind on production because of production hangups and stuff that's been happening during the pandemic. So everybody's like, why would we go, you know? So, you know, like, why? So we can get more orders for things that we're going to be behind on, you know? So there's that aspect. Maybe that's the wrong question. Do you hit a mic pre out of the aux, like a 1073? Back to the aux thing, then we'll come back to NAMM maybe. No, you don't need to do that. You can just literally take a line out of, because, you know, like the cabinet, like whatever, when they make consider that when you make an IR of a cabinet, you're using a mic pre to you know, go through, so that it's kind of baked into the IR, like the mic pre sounds. Then you're going to come out and go into another. I mean, you can, but there's not really a need. What you want to do is come out of the aux into like a line level, good clean, recording interface. You can take the digital out of the aux into your interface, or if you go analog out, just go right into like your UA interface or whatever, line level in, and print like that. There's no reason to go into like another, unless you want to, unless you're like, yeah, I want to hit an EVQ and shape the sound a little bit and stuff, but it's not necessary to get the sound to be great. Anybody thoughts on that? Thoughts on that? Preston says, seem not very busy. Yeah. In the video games industry, all the industry in-person shows are dying. It's I think the writing on the wall was there a couple years ago, well before the pandemic. I mean, I remember somebody saying from a big company like, well, here we go, getting ready to gear up for the colossal waste of time, resources, and energy that is NAMM. And they said that like publicly, and I thought, wow, like, and a lot of people would talk about that, like how expensive it is to go. They were charging a lot for booths. I mean, this is going back almost 10 years, going back to 2014, 15. You'd see folks like Sir, have a factory party instead of necessarily going to NAMM, because it's like, it's getting so expensive that maybe we should just do this other thing and invite all our friends out if they're going to be here for NAMM anyway. So they wouldn't go. And I'd think, well, if that's happening, and then one year Gibson didn't go when they were having problems, and then they went again the next year and did a really big booth, like, because I guess they wanted to show like, hey, we're back, we got a new guy and it's all different now. But I guess if you're trying to make a big splash like that, it's cool. But I could see the writing on the wall a number of years ago where people were complaining about it and it's expensive. And it's like, I don't remember that from the 90s and the early 2000s. It was just a given. You went to NAMM. That's what you did. And then once the internet, we're still only, it's kind of amazing, but we're like only 25 years into the internet, really, right? Being a thing that everybody uses. So it's still, I'm not saying it's in its infancy, but it's become, to the point now where I guess it just got to the point where it's like, why do we all get on a plane and go to this thing and ship everything there when we can kind of do these big product releases? Everybody looks online anyway and doesn't. So there's a nostalgia element to it that I guess takes a while to, where people like, I mean, it's human interaction. It's like going to a show and seeing a band as opposed to, watching something on your big screen TV at home or whatever, I guess. And there's an element to it that's still where it's nice, right? To get together and go see. I love that. The social aspect of it is really fun, going to see your friends and see all the guitars in one place and all that and be in person. But it is at a huge expense and time expense, financial expense. And then with the added kind of impact of a pandemic and stuff, it's interesting. All right. Let's see. RJB says NAMM needs to open to public more. I don't think so. It was never about that. It was supposed to be where, dealers could go and to the manufacturers and see the new gear that it was coming out that year and then do orders. So the more public that's there, the more it clogs up that whole original purpose. It's supposed to be the National Association of Music Merchants, right? Where like you go and the dealers get their stuff to put in their stores. If you turn it into a public event, I don't know that generally speaking, the more public that's there, it just, it kind of gums up the works of the original intention of the show. And then it becomes, you could argue that, public shows should happen, but then it's not really NAMM. It's not the purpose for it would be different, Chip says, your opinion, I won't tell the company, aux versus 2 notes capture X. They're okay. They really exist in two different universes as far as the cost, right? And also they both do a similar thing, but it's like one, you've got their whole store where you can buy cabinets and do their whole, like the boutique thing. There's reverb. Is there a compressor in wall of sound? I don't think there is, but maybe there is. I don't know. I guess they're similar. Like, yeah, okay, you could argue they're load boxes with cab sims, I guess. I think that the aux has established itself and it's got its devotees, and I think the 2 notes folks have their devotees, and they work differently. Like, one you can get the app for the aux on iOS, but and that works great. And you can also use it on your computer. I bet most people use it on iOS. What about Two Notes? Did any of you guys with the Two Notes units use the iOS app more than the computer app? Because for me, I was like a wall of sound. That was like, oh, and then I realized, oh, that you can use this on iOS. Okay, like, and I know Friedman likes the iOS app a lot. So this is like arguing about Axe FX versus Kemper versus, I can't make they're all good. I always say that. I don't know what to tell you. It's like different people are going to like some more than others, Whoa, there's a giant super chat up there. Dude, I appreciate it. Wow, thank you. Now I can go and get lunch. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. You're too kind. No, really, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. I'm blown away. Like, you guys are too kind. Thank you for being here. It's 1:35. I started at 11:45. I started late, so I'll be here for another 15 minutes or so, and then I'm going to jet. But thanks so much, man, for the super chat. Any good setting for Van Halen for the quad Cortex? For just a kind of a generic, like not doing a capture of some crazy amp or whatever, like I did with the SL68. But if you just want a good sound, I found the 50-watt plexi with everything on 10 works quite well for that sound. And I really like the 90s greenback cab that they have in there. So try the 90s greenback cab coupled with the quad Cortex, mess with the miking and stuff, probably want to use at least 157, if not 2, with a couple different, and then you can use the hall reverb to get kind of similar to the chamber sound. If you want a 90s kind of Van Halen thing, do a split pitch thing where you got 2 pitch, one left and one right, and one's up +9 and one's -9, and you mix it in about maybe 25-30% or something like that. So you can do that. That's a place to start. I found the flanger and the phaser in the quad Cortex don't really do the MXR thing. So you probably need to use the pedals. Maybe at some point they'll add like a phase 90 simulation or whatever to the quad Cortex, but they don't really sound like, they sound good, but they're not really that. You can't nail those sounds. You can get quite close, I found, with the flanger and the phaser in the Helix. So like, let's talk about in the Helix for a second, how to set up a Van Halen sound. Cause I did that at home. I've got my Helix at home and that's how I've been practicing some of the songs when I'm at home lately. I used the Placator amp sim, which is the BE100 style amp sim. And then I used a Celestion IR greenback 412 with a 57 and a 121. That just worked. Just kind of, I wasn't trying to get exact Van Halen sound. I was just trying to get a good patch going. But then I put the flanger and the phaser in front, and I went online. I did a Google search for Helix Line 6 Van Halen flanger and phaser, and I found a page where people were just going, "Well, here's my settings. Here's my settings," and there were some really great settings there. And I just found kind of like the best one in this. It was on a forum, might have been the Gear page or something, but somebody posted some settings, and they were really, really good, quite close. So I did that, and then I put a chamber reverb after, and I used that Echoplex, the tape style Echoplex in front of the amp, last in the chain before the amp. So that worked quite well in the Helix, that setup. Pretty cool. Did the pitch thing in the Helix too, and then also added a octaver in front so that I could do the drop dead legs kind of stuff, octave sound, or the solo in Unchained. Everybody know that the solo in Unchained has the Boss octave effect on it. It's kind of, if you listen close, you'll hear it. It's interesting. Yeah. What else do we got here? What are you guys talking about? Who wants to ride a bus to Florida? That sounds like one of Dante's levels of hell to me. Like a Greyhound? Yeah. Has anybody ever been on a Greyhound, like far, like a long trip? Oh, man. It's crazy. It's so weird. Oh, man. I took a bus, I think. Did I do it all the way from LA to Vancouver? I think I did once in my 20s. I think I took a bus from LA to Vancouver. I think I blocked it out of my memory, but that's crazy because I remember going from LA and going to every little, going to Stockton, California. Greyhound, they just stop in every little, and so it's like a trip that would normally take you 24 hours will now be 36 hours, at least. Oh God, it's a weird, man, is it ever a strange thing riding on a bus for that long? Tour bus, of course I've done that all over the world, but it's a different vibe sitting in a Greyhound or something. It's so crazy. Yeah. Nutty. Pete, you have to wait till August 2022 until Johnny Marr is playing LA. I'd love to go see him. Really would. I really like Johnny Marr. I'd rather listen to him than Morrissey any day of the week. That's the truth. Like him playing those songs too, and then of course his new stuff is great. He's really vital to me still. Like Johnny Marr's just cool. Like still, if you're not a fan of his guitar playing, I don't know, you're missing out because he like really creative, interesting songwriting, guitar playing, tones too. He's really a tone guy, and I love his approach to sounds. And yeah, Jim Simmons says you should do a modeling amp and call it the Thornado. Hey, you're not the first guy. It's actually somebody mentioned Greg Saran earlier in this show. Greg was the first guy that said you need to call your signature amp the Thornado 1000. Anyway, what do we got here? Will there ever be a 16 ohm SIR reactive load? Don't know that actually. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder. It'd be cool if they made one that switched between 8 and 16. Is there a combo version of the PT15? No. John's not really a big fan of doing like combos unless it's a complete redesign. He's really picky about the panels and about the layout and stuff. And I think he feels like some folks, could be argued this is a great way to do it. Dave will take like the Dirty Shirley Mini or the Pink Taco Mini amps and just make a combo out of them. Just build a combo cabinet. And literally, it's the same head chassis and everything, and then he builds it into the cabinet, and the knobs go the other way, so they're like backwards or whatever, because that's what you have to do when you can, the way it's mounted in the shell and stuff. Kind of Fender Basement style, really. That style with the knobs on top, and you can make a quick combo that way. John never wants to do that, and we could do that probably if he wanted. He could mount a PT15 in a combo cabinet, and it would be backwards like that with the knobs all going, and then we would have a combo. But he's not really. He's just one of those guys who doesn't want to do that. So he doesn't like that when they're backwards like that and stuff. Whereas Dave's fine with it, and his customers seem fine with it. So it's like I don't know if there's a right or wrong way. It's just down to what the designer wants to do. So we don't. Long story short, no, we don't have a real long story short. We don't have a combo version of the PT15, but we do have a nice little 112 cabinet that sounds awesome. And arguably, if you want the pushed Marshall kind of, like big amp stack sound, a closed back cabinet is preferable for that anyway to a combo. So I know it's one more thing to carry, but the head's light, the 112's light. It's like, is it really like, I don't know. I would prefer, for my purposes, a closed back cabinet for the driven, for the crunch sounds, lead sounds and stuff. I like open back stuff too, but more for lighter gain sounds and clean sounds. So that's right. It's called the Pink Taco, the PT20. Pink Taco 20. He doesn't. There's a little bit of a thing over the PT because that's like we have PT15, PT100. Not a big deal, but it's like so. The amp is called the Pink Taco. That's right. Anyways, what else we got here? Looking through the chat. Just got my first head last week, says Bruce. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I mentioned that I heard a Friedman modded Marshall Studio, the head, not a combo, but and what Dave did to it was great. Just minor tweaks, I think, but it really sounded good to me, to be honest. So into focus. How do you get that fuzz? I used a Rangemaster boost on that with my Sir Telly. I'm not sure if that's the part you're talking about. I'd have to go back and listen, to be honest, because I can't remember exactly like everything I did on that track. But the main guitar tone on that is Rangemaster style boost into probably the SL68, I think, using my Sir Telly, because the reason that I did that is because that's what I did on the original version. That where I got that song from was a demo of a Rangemaster. This is going back to 2013 or 12. I did a video of a Rangemaster style boost and played that track. I was trying to kind of write a almost like STP sounding heavy riff or something, and using a Rangemaster, like a snarly, and I thought single coils, Rangemaster into a Marshall, sort of thing. And that's what I ended up with. But I'm not sure if it's the main riff in the song that you're talking about. I would have to go listen. So, yeah. Do you spend any time transcribing music? No, I mean, I spend a hell of a lot of time learning music, learning riffs and stuff. Do I write it down and transcribe it? No, I don't. I just memorize it. It's crazy good, says Michael. Yeah, I mean, a Rangemaster into a Marshall is a bitchin', your mileage may vary if you're going into the bright channel, but you can still get it good if you use a fat Rangemaster. Like, if it's got a control on it. Like the one I used is, now that you're making me think about it, was the 65, which is a pedal that they no longer make, I don't think. But 65, much like Divided by 13, had a Rangemaster with a switchable. It's kind of got a I don't know if it's a range control or what it is, but there's a 5-position kind of click switch on it that lets you add more bass. So original Rangemaster is very little bass. It's just a snarly top end. The Cornish one, for example, has quite a bit more low end to me, still blended. So where the low end cuts off is lower in the Cornish. It's fuller sounding. And then some of these modern Rangemaster styles, including the 65, give you this 5-position switch that allows you to pick the amount of sort of low end that's in the sound. So I probably used one of the middle kind of settings, because I think I went into my SL68 into the treble channel, which, can get with a regular Rangemaster circuit that might be a little piercing and crazy. Keeping in mind a Rangemaster into like a AC30 normal or into a Marshall normal channel, the channel 2, I mean, the dark channel, that'd be a very dark sound without the Rangemaster, and then you use the snarly Rangemaster thing to kind of even it out. If you go into the treble channel, it's like peel the paint off the wall. So then you bring in a little more low end, and now you get a great sound even into the treble channel, or maybe with the amp channels jumpered. Anyway, I'm glad you brought up that sound, because that's I love that sound too. I mean, that aggressive kind of like, I love Rangemasters and the good old treble booster and the old school Tony Iommi, Judas Priest, Rory Gallagher, Brian May, all those sounds that are so epic and awesome, or that really aggressive, snarly, mid-range, cool, cutting. Shall I use more adjectives? Anyway, what pedal for a CK? I just became aware of this. Is this my fault? Jordan says, what pedal for a CKK Scream Honey thing without being $8,000? I did say when it came out, is this pedal the new Klon? Is it going to be? And then I looked on Reverb the other day, and people are selling them for $1,200. Oh my God, it actually happened, like within like a year. This is this pedal that CKK made in, it's a fellow over in China, and he's a major Marshall freak. So he made a pedal to boost Marshalls. And he bought a certain amount of new old stock parts and kind of made it. I'm going to build a pedal using these parts that I bought, and I've only got enough to make a certain amount, so I'll make some, and that'll be it. Kind of. Well, of course, what happened, but it went crazy, and now they're like $1,200. It actually happened. So I turned Richard Fortis onto it, and he's using it now on tour with Guns N' Roses. He uses an Archer, and he uses that. I'm going to add my Scream Honey to my board too, because it's killer. So just what's going to go on my pedal board. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at what's on there that I can get rid of. I don't know. We'll see. Something's got to go so that I can put that on there, because it's a really cool pedal for boosting Marshalls. What pedal to do that? That's not $8,000. Well, I love the good old Jeff Beck spec Archer from J Rocket, but it's a more low, mid-rangey, muscly thing. The Scream Honey is more that upper. One could argue that it's probably not dissimilar to certain screamers. If you want a really cool screamer boost thing for the front end of a Marshall, that Apex 808 is pretty great from Maxon. That was one of the best sounding tube screamers I ever heard, and I started to become aware that no, they are not all equal. The Apex 808 had a really, really, really good sound. So check out that pedal too. I did a video for it. You can compare and see. How close would the Unit 67 be to the Rangemaster? It's got Rangemaster flavor, but it's not truly like a... You turn up that mid boost. But one thing about the Unit 67 is that it'll work with like a buffer in front, which tells me it's not a... like a Rangemaster sounds like crap with a buffered pedal in front. You can't really, it's unusable really. Does that make sense? Rangemaster is much like a fuzz with germanium and the circuit and all that, and it relies on the guitar volume interaction. And so like the whole Brian May thing, I mean, he's almost never on 10 with the guitar volume. When he rolls down, it cleans up and does that so you can get the tie your mother down rhythm thing and all that. And so that's why Brian, he's got the Rangemaster on his strap now, because it comes out of the guitar into the Rangemaster and then out of there into his wireless, because the wireless will buffer. So you got to have it after the Rangemaster, blah, 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 right? The Unit 67 works fine with buffer in front. So it tells me that it's not actually really like a true Rangemaster, but it's doing that kind of mid-range thing that it's more polite and a little less raw sounding, but it's cool. And I love the Unit 67. It's just a different thing. You guys know the Unit 67? Get it off my pedal board here. It's tied down. You know what? I'm gonna bust it off just because it's such a cool pedal. I want to show it to you really quick if you're not familiar with it. One sec. There it is. So the Unit 67, you can see that it's got, see where it says range over there on the knob on the far side there. That's a mid-range boost. And then you got a low and high EQ control. And then you got a sustain control. So that's a one knob compressor kind of affair with that sustain thing. With this switch, you can switch in and out you can essentially make this pedal like pretty much a clean boost with these off. I think the compressor's always in line, but if you have the sustain down, it's not really doing anything. And if you have, this is kind of like a compressor, say input high and low. This kind of kicks the front end of the compressor, I think. So with this setting, essentially you get this knob and this is a boost, clean boost. But if you turn this on, this now turns on this Rangemaster control and range control, and then the low and the high. And now you got like a simple kind of very guitar-centric, guitar-flavored EQ there that allows you to boost some mids and just kind of, and then coupled with this, now you're getting a clean boost. So clean boost coupled with more mids and then maybe attenuate some lows and whatever you want to do with the high end or whatever. It's like a better, just always on, like, oh, that just sounds better. I like that. And then this, turn up the sustain, you're going to get a little 1176 style compressor, and you can kind of make it more aggressive if you put that in the up setting. So now you got this simple guitar-centric kind of EQ, clean boost with a little bit of compression, which we like because it gives it a little bit of cool sustain and sag, and you just have this more better kind of pedal. I love this thing. It's a really, really good like tone enhancer. It's not like anything else, and the combination of stuff is really cool in this pedal. So it's one of my absolute favorites for just kind of taking a good sound and making it, even better. It's fun. It's fun. I like it a lot. But the question was, how close does it get to a Rangemaster? You get some of that flavor, but it's not as crazy, and it won't respond to the guitar roll up and down like a Rangemaster does. So it's more like a once, put the mids where you want them. You get that sound without the crazy level of boost and dynamics and cleanup that the Rangemaster does. It's more just about the mid snarl, kind of bit of mid flavor aspect of a Rangemaster. Hope that made sense. My tube amp doesn't have a line out, just a speaker extension out. Best way to convert that to line level to connect to my DI. You need a line out box. I've shown the one that I usually recommend. If I can find it here, I'll show it to you. But I don't know that I dark in here right now, and I don't know that I have it. I thought it's usually in my drawers right here, but then things get moved around. Oh wait, here it is. I found it. You need this, my friend. This is a Sir line out box, so it's got a speaker through jack. So from your amp's speaker jack, you plug in here, and then this will go to your speaker. So, and then it taps off the signal going to the speaker and gives you a level control here, and then a 1/4 inch out, and that'll be your line level out. And you get a phase switch and a ground lift there if you have any ground problems. So that's what you want. These are terrific for that. There's other things out there that'll do it, but this is awesome. It was made to do that. You know, that's how you get your line level out of your amp. That's the one I use and recommend. Jordan says, I rock. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I've gone over, but I'm enjoying myself, so I'll hang a little bit longer. Why the hell not? Pete, the Joyo British Sound pedal works very good for around $33. I can get a blues breaker to plexi tones out of it. That's cool. Rocket. Where do you run the Unit 67 on your pedal board? I have 2 slots on my pedal board that basically the guitar cable hits my Friedman buffer bay. It's like a patch bay with a buffer. And then the signal comes out of there and goes into my freak out. It's a sustain pedal thing from, grabs notes and makes a feedback from Digitech, and the Unit 67, and then into a Dunlop mini wah. And then it goes to my switcher and goes out to all the pedals that are in the loops of my switcher. So it's long story short, it's up front, in front of my wah. That's where I have it. So it's kind of the tone shaper coming right out of the guitar after the freak out. Yeah. The freak out kind of wants to see the signal right out of your guitar, because it wants to see the kind of the pure note coming out of your guitar, unaffected or gain boosted or anything like that, because it's going to grab that note and then kind of make it feedback or not. So it's up front, and then I put the other one next. Little super chat there from John. Eventide Black Hole compared to Nunaber Immerse 2. Oh, they're both really good. Looking for basic to big ambient. There's nothing basic about the Black Hole. It doesn't really do spring reverb or anything like that. It's the Black Hole algorithm. So it's more that ambient big reverb. It never will do a small room or something. So, but if you like the Black Hole reverb, then it's great, for that thing. I use it all the time for big ambient. It's kind of a go-to of mine. The Immerse, probably more versatile, because it'll get a lot of those sounds with the wet reverb and all that. And it's not the same sound, but it's you can do that, but you can also do. I've heard people say they think the spring isn't that great in it. So take that as with a grain of salt. But there are great small reverb sounds in the Nunaber. The Hall is nice, and you can get plate sounds out of it and stuff like that are more kind of typical, more subtle reverb sounds, right? This is the Sue Them All Fund. I got new internet this week. So I'm using it right now. Isn't it nice? Like, it's not screwing up. And I can't guarantee that it'll be like that next week, but we can only hope. And it seems pretty rock solid so far. So I'm stoked. The major advantage is I've got access to my router very easily now. So if I need to reset it or something, I can do that, which is nice. But it seems really good. So I'm not going to sue yet, but thank you. And this will go. I do have another bill, so this will help go towards that. Honestly, you guys give me these super chats and stuff like that, and without a word of a lie, it's like I was like, these people are coming here every week, and they're not only that, they're sometimes sending money. Then I better have solid internet, because it's just unprofessional if I didn't, right? And so I'm fine with taking on another bill to do these things, because it's like I got to have good internet. It seemed ridiculous that it was screwing up as much as it was, so I got it handled, hopefully. Okay, what else we got here? Why did you get your hair cut? I don't know. It feels good. I like it. You know what? You want to know the honest truth? It's like I always want to like having longer hair, and I always wanted to like it in the times that I've had it, but it's always a pain in the ass, and I don't think that it looks that great on me. That's the way I feel about it. Everybody's got their own thing, but when I cut my hair shorter for the first time, I was like, I think I just look younger and like better. I don't want to think that. I wanted to like it, but I think maybe I'm just one of those guys where, and at least that's everybody's got a different perception, but of themselves. But it's like you don't want to look in the mirror, and every time you look in the mirror, go, you look haggard. That's the first thing that you say to yourself, and that's the way I always felt. I don't want to feel that way. I was like, that didn't make me feel good. Whereas now I feel like I don't feel like that. So that's honestly it. That's it. I just felt better about it, I guess. My honest answer. Any thoughts on the Danelectro 12 string and how you use 12s in general? The Danelectro 12 string is great. It's all the 12 string probably most people need. I mean, in an electric 12, my favorite 12 string of all time is those 60s Fenders, the ones with the split pickup. I love those things. And they can actually still be had for a pretty reasonable price as far as vintage guitars go. They're on the reasonable end of like the price of a custom shop Fender or something. So one of these days I might, have to break down and get one of those because I really like them. But with that said, a Danelectro 12 string is great. It's a utility guitar that you're probably not going to play all the time. And so you just need a good solid one that plays good. The necks are wide, which is nice, like compared to a Rickenbacker, there's no comparison. I mean, as far as the ease of playability and they're just so much easier to play and restring and the whole 9 yards. You ever try to put strings on a Rickenbacker 12 string? Holy shit. You'll want to take yourself out after you do that. I mean, if you get through the process, it's absolutely awful. What were they thinking? Put all the thought into making it look cool, but respect for the Hendrix poster. There's Jimmy up there. Jimmy's always watching over us here, So, sometimes I'll be cutting apart. I'll look back there. Let's see, oh, am I on the right track? You can always reference Jimmy for a good, I feel like he's like, Jimmy, tell me if I'm doing the right thing or not. Any experience with the Origin Effects Hot Rod Revival Drive? I did a video for it on my channel. You can find it. How do you feel about PRS CE? Isn't that the kind of alder body maple neck rosewood board situation? I had one. Is that what you're talking about? The it's almost like a super strat version of but back in the day, I mean, they've made them forever, right? PRS CE guitar. Make sure I'm talking about the same thing here. I think this is the guitar that I'm thinking of. Click more. Okay, it loaded some Guitar Center website. That's kind of a pain in the butt. There's my old buddy Joey Brasler that popped up in a video holding that guitar. It's funny to see Joey with a PRS. I guess he works for Guitar Center now, and he used to work at Fender, so it's funny to see him with a PRS. Anyways, what do they have? Satin nitro finish, mahogany. No, it says mahogany back and maple top. Bolt-on maple neck. I thought I had I had one of these 25 years ago. Wow. And I'm pretty sure it had an alder body and a maple top, but it says bolt-on maple neck rosewood board. Maybe they've just changed the body spec to be mahogany, but anyways, it was a good guitar. They're nice guitars, and PRS makes good guitars. It's just they're a little bit polarizing, I guess, and you're into their thing or you aren't. And I think they're really good quality guitars. They play good. They're good working tools. I find maybe the hardest thing for me is the scale length is in between Gibson scale and Fender scale, and maybe that makes them sound like I don't know what. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing that maybe but that is not has nothing to do with, I think they make good instruments. It's pretty rare I've picked one up and gone, this isn't a good guitar, where it's not set up. I mean, their guitars are nice. The SE guitars are great, the ones they make in Korea. I've played plenty of ones where I pick them up and it's a good solid, like if I had this when I was a kid, we didn't have guitars that were this good, that were this price. So yeah. It's just a thing. I am a bad influence, says Arthur, because he ordered in 1987. Well, that's my job, you know? Let's face it, I'm in marketing. No, it's just one aspect. But, I'm not wrong when I say that. Does my super chat Van Halen question get asked a lot? I'm sorry, did I miss a super chat, Brandon, from you? Let's see. Ooh, I did miss this. The Sue them all. No, yeah, I missed the last half of this question. The EHX black finger compressor. I haven't tried that. And no, there's not a super chat I missed. I'm looking back for Brandon's super chat here. Maybe so. Oh, there he is. Can you recommend a pedal for Van Halen One Dirt? I'm really sorry. It wasn't intentional. I just probably got off on a tangent and then didn't answer you. Can you recommend a pedal for Van Halen One Dirt into a clean amp that isn't the Pinnacle? I'm on the hunt again. I'm on the hunt. Well, I mean, this pedal will do that really well if you're just looking for the dirty, plexi thing. It's a really good sounding pedal. There's quite a few other ones out there. Did you ever try the Mad Professor? What's the one called? The One. It's got distortion and reverb in it. It's pretty damn good. I did a video for it. We're going way, 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 way back. Honestly, man, the 5150, when I did the original video for the 5150 pedal, I tried to show that I thought it did a pretty good take on that sound, the lower gain stuff, because everybody that had done videos up until mine came out, had the gain way up. And so it was like, everybody's like, oh, well, that's for metal, but it doesn't really sound like early Van Halen. So I specifically did a early Van Halen kind of thing with the gain around 11 o'clock, actually. And that was the first video I made for that pedal. And I always remember going to show Ed and Matt Bruck that video before I put it out, because they asked to see it before I put it out. And Eddie really liked it. And then he said, it was funny because it was right away, he turned to me and goes, can you make another one? Do a real heavy one? So okay, I'll do another one and turn up the gain. But I told him, I said, specifically, I'm trying to, I remember telling him specifically, okay, before I show you this, I'm just prefacing it with, you might want to kick me in the balls because I'm trying to play like you. And I said, I'm trying to write like you. So I'm trying to do your thing. And I hope that doesn't offend you, And I remember telling him that, and he just kind of laughed or whatever. But then I played it and he was like, I remember he commented, the first thing was, well, pickups in that guitar, it sounds good. And he was very happy with the video. So that made me happy. And I actually shared it on his Twitter and stuff and linked to my video and stuff. So that was a thrill for me. I was overjoyed. Anyway, I digress. Check out that video I made for it and tell me what you think. 5150. I think it sounds good. What else we got here? Any other? I suppose I should go soon. I'm gonna split at I'll go till 2:15. A few more minutes here. Have you ever made a video testing the Fender ProSonic? The ProSonic is a Fender amp that I think, when I think back to about 15 years ago, I think of the Fender ProSonic, which was like kind of one of their first amps, maybe even pre-Tone Master, that had a decent drive channel in it. So is that the amp you're talking about? I've never done a video with one, but I remember, so. Eric says, you look haggard, is what I usually say when I first look in the mirror. Back to the hair thing, I felt like I did look haggard. I felt like I look okay at the beginning of the day, when you get ready to go out or whatever. Get ready. All right. Let's, like the Fonz in the mirror. Hey, whatever. So, and then I like left the house, went about my day, came home, and I'd go like, oh man, you look rough when I get home. I don't want to feel that way. Like, we all get older and shit like that. It's like when I have shorter hair, I don't feel that way, and so it just makes me feel better. This is less work too. Who wants to deal with all that? I don't know. I think I just like gave up on living the long hair dream. I like short hair for me now. So what do we got here? David Lee says that Ray Stringin is 74 Ibanez Gibson Jimmy Page double neck cop. That's a cool guitar. What a unique guitar. I'd love to see a picture of that. Double neck copy. Takes a couple hours. Yeah. It's dread changing strings, right? Can you recommend a vocal coach in the Southern California area? I don't know that many people. There's a guy with that I believe is around here somewhere, and he's like, oh God, who's the dude? He used to be a friend of an ex-girlfriend of mine. He was a singing coach, and he does a lot of those videos on YouTube. He kind of looks like a rocker guy with long hair, and he does videos called like how to sing like so and so, how to sing like, and he's got like this academy. I can't remember, but he was a local dude, and he seems to know kind of what he's talking about. Sorry, I don't really. It's been years since I went to a vocal coach, so I don't have anybody that. It's best to ask probably a good lead singer. But there's some great stuff on YouTube, I find, and that guy. Some people might know the guy I'm talking to. Long hair, and he does the like how to sing like Chris Cornell, or how to sing like he's got a bunch of videos out. A very successful YouTube channel. He used to be around. He was like in Orange County or something. He's local. He probably does private lessons. I don't know, or maybe not. Maybe he's just all internet now. Yeah, there's a big old super chat there. Hey, thank you. Let me find that. Let me find that. Jeff, just for a second here, says he got a classic JM this week. That's awesome. Those are cool guitars. Totally cool. I like Ian's version too, with its like kind of V-neck and stuff. It's pretty fun. Yeah. Somebody's mentioned that says, I dig that hair and glasses. Good luck. Thanks. And I am going to put in the video right after I get off of here. I'm going to go find the link for these glasses because I've promised these guys I would do that. These are from this company called Caddis, Caddis. I love these glasses. These are progressive, so more old guy stuff, but they're, you can probably kind of see there. They get maybe a little different. I don't know. Maybe you can't see that. Maybe you can. But they are 1.5s at the bottom, so I can kind of wear these all day and drive with them, and then read through the bottom and see your comments like this better. But I love these glasses, and they make really cool like different frames and stuff, and they make them in. You can see they're kind of blue, and they make them in like green and pink, and different colors. It's just a little bit of tint to them, so they're pretty cool. Different frames and stuff. I'm gonna put a link in the video description to get to these because I've been very happy with them, and I think for those of us out there that are vision challenged, they're pretty cool. Okay. Somebody mentioned the guy's Kevin Tamplin. That's the guy. Kevin Tamplin. That's the dude. He makes pretty cool videos, I think. And he might, I don't know if he has a like one-on-one private lesson kind of thing or not, but Ken Tamplin. That's right. Ken Tamplin. That's not Kevin. Ken. That's right. Exactly. That's the guy I was thinking of. He was friends with an ex-girlfriend of mine, and he's made a quite successful YouTube business since then, I think. So check out his lessons. He might not even be in Southern California anymore. I don't know, but he was. He used to be, I believe he was in Orange County, I think. Peter Evans, thank you, man. Was late to the show, so thanks for the videos this week. And videos this week. Have a great week. What have I got coming this week? You know what? I need to organize that because there's a lot of stuff that I'm supposed to do video-wise coming up, and it's all kind of looming. Those that are out there know probably that I've done these IRs for 2 Notes, so I need to make a video for them, and just to get ready for the release of that. The PT100 plugin is also coming out. It's been out for a number of years now for UA platform only, but it's being released very soon natively, so you'll be able to use it on any format. So I got to make a video for that. It's a terrific amplifier, modeling plugin that really captures the tone of the amp quite well. It's most impressive. So that'll be happening. Other pedals, I've got a jam pedal here that I've got to do. There's some new stuff coming from, I don't know how much I can talk about from like other companies because they don't want you to know that their stuff's coming out before it comes out. But there's a Carl Martin that I need to get done. So a whole bunch of stuff, but I just don't. Sorry, I'm not that organized right now. That'll be one of the things I aim to do a little bit later today. Is get a list. I need to organize things this week so I know what I'm doing every day. Yeah. What else? Oh, that's right. Today is Neil Peart's birthday. So he's departed, but we love Neil. And I saw Getty shared a nice photo of him with a classic sports car. He liked to race cars and drive cars and stuff like that. So that's on his Instagram if you want to check that out. But God, that guy had an amazing car collection. Wow. Some of his cars were out of this world. Crazy stuff, cool stuff. Pete, will your IRs be offered only on 2 notes? I hate that I can't purchase their IRs and use them on other independent platforms. This particular package is just 2 notes, so it will be for that. Not to say that I won't do other things later that are for other things, but but and I feel like this is one of the things they asked me specifically to let people know, is that you can use those IRs within Wall of Sound. So Wall of Sound, is it free? I mean, to download? I think it's a plugin that you can use in any DAW. And then you can just get the IR packages that you want. And so it's actually quite cost effective, and it's a good plugin for with its built-in reverb and EQ and stuff like that for hosting. Yes, granted, you can only do their. Actually, I think you can host other IRs in it, can't you? So you can even use others. So I mean, they've asked me to kind of like basically publicize the fact that there's nothing stopping you from using their Dyne IRs or their impulse responses within Wall of Sound with whatever load box that you want in whatever DAW that you want. You don't have to have a Captor X, right, or a Cab M, or any of those things. You can use a different, like, is that hopefully that's helpful. So if you want to get my IRs, you can simply download their plugin, buy my one package, and you'll have those cabinet sounds. And it's quite cost effective compared to like a lot of plugins and things that are, you just get what you want. Oh, I only want the Phil X ones and Pete's, or Dave Friedman's and mine. Dave's coming out with a pack too. So it's pretty cool, in that sense. And yeah, that's that. Hopefully that's interesting. I don't know. Did I just miss a super chat? Arthur? Oh no, that was Arthur's. Yeah, got that one. Okay, cool. Yay, PT Native plugin. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm supposed to announce that, but I did. So there it was. Yeah. Yeah. So it's coming out. It'll be good. Looking through the chat here. See if there's any other. Anyone have thoughts on the Seymour Duncan 59 versus the Jazz? Jazz is like a little lower output. I mean, that's kind of what the combo was, the Jazz neck and the 59 bridge, or the JB bridge, right? So I haven't heard too many people using the Jazz in the bridge, but it might be kind of T-toppy, or like sort of like that real low gain. It could be cool. Is the Jazz Alnico 2? I'm not sure. Might be. Or it might be Alnico 5. I just can't remember. It's not a pickup I've ever actually owned. It was a classic combo, though. They used to come in Hamers. I remember that. Like the Hamer, FMs or whatever. It would have its JB in the bridge and a 59 neck. It was just JB in a Jazz? 59 and oh, I forget now. Anyways, whatever. Thanks for the stream. Bye. See you. Have a good day. Take care. See you again soon. Come back and hang next week. Yeah. How does the Hot Mod V2 and AT7 compare to a front end boost? It's a different sound, and it definitely sounds like, when something sounds like a mod and it's like an organic part of the amp, and how it's different than kicking the amp with a pedal. Or if you're saying front end boost like a Jose style, it's the boost is later in the overdrive chain. I don't know how to. There's different places that you can put a gain boost in an amplifier in the circuit, and it just has a slight, like a Jose style tube in front style boost is very aggressive and very like, it just has a snarling kind of top end thing that it does, because you're generally using you're filtering a lot of lows out of that first tube, that added tube boost. And it kind of hits the front end and has a certain characteristic sound that kind of sounds like LA metal of the era or whatever. It's just a certain sound that Jose, Peter Frampton uses one too. And if you use it, you can tune the amount of low end coming out of that boost and stuff, and it won't sound like that necessarily, but it's got a certain sound to it. The Hot Mod has it's a similar thing, but it's maybe just a bit more broad sounding gain. I don't know. Like you can hear it in my video where it just sounds kind of like a cool. It just sounds like an optimized JCM 800 or something. It doesn't have that quite snarling top end, really aggressive thing. It's more like a great rock sound that's maybe a bit more full in character. I don't know. Maybe your mileage may vary, but that's the way I would describe it. Not dissimilar. I mean, it's like they're both kind of takes on that modded Marshall, Marshall with more gain, Plexi with more gain thing, or 1980, or what's the 2203, 2204 circuit, but with like maybe a little less low end, a little bit less wool. I recommended it right away, the hot mod thing, to a couple people I knew that had JCM 800s that were like, yeah, but I always find it's a bit woolly and I can't quite get enough gain. Like if that's your feel about those amps, that they're kind of like a bit bloated sounding and not quite tight enough, but yet they're not really gainy. It's a weird thing with that 2203, 2204. It's not my favorite amp. They sound great when they're really loud, but like before that, it's like a little underwhelming. Well, it really just sort of optimizes that sound and makes it better. So I like that thing. I was very impressed with it. How can I learn to best speed up picking? Watch the Paul Gilbert Intense Rock 1 video. Work on those exercises like I did when I was 17 years old for about 6 months with a metronome, and then you'll be there. And specifically pay attention to the way that he has minimal hand motion in his picking hand. Really, really, really efficient. And I would say one of the main things is to only use the very tip of the pick. Don't flail around and use your whole arm or anything like that. It's got to be this back and forth alternate picking, and you're really focusing on the very tip of the pick to get that kind of articulation and speed going. And you'll see him do that, and just copy what he's doing, and you'll get there, or at least close if you use a metronome and work hard. Think about using the hot mod in a JCM or JTM 50 clone, hoping it will tighten the low end and give it more balls. The only thing is you're going to get a big gain boost, which is going to add up to a big volume boost. So you're going to open up the volume one, and it's going to get loud really quick. So just know that, because it's increasing gain quite a bit, and without a master volume, But if you have any kind of attenuator or you're cool with playing loud, then it's not a problem. We'll get a great sound when you just turn it up. It's just it makes it a bit more. Those amps anyway, they come on pretty quick, right? And then it's like just not a lot of gain, but it's loud. Now it's going to be like gainier and even louder when you first turn it on. So that's why he says, yeah, it'll work in those amps, but I really designed it for a 2203, 2204 with a master volume, but it'll work, and it'll work good in those amps. Just know it's going to be loud. That's it. How does Zach play fast with his club-like picking hand? He's one of the guys he has a different thing that he does, but he just kind of manhandles the guitar in a certain way, and that's part of his style, but if you look at Yngwie play, it looks like he's barely picking. It's just like his hand is, you're hearing those articulation on all the notes, and he's like, his hand looks like this when he's moving, the sweep picking thing and all that. It is crazy. Sorry, that was really loud when I did that. It was probably annoying. Did your significant other in the other room go, what the hell are you watching? Why are you still watching that guy? Come hang out with me. Speaking of Jose mods, could you do a video on your Jamino? I could, yeah. Eventually. Yeah, I know it's been a minute. I probably should. It'd probably be interesting just from the perspective of it has all the Jose stuff. But you know what? It's really not going to be that much different than the Steve Vai amp video, because basically all that stuff is in that amp. So if you watch the Steve Vai amp video, that's basically what was done to that. It has the pre-master, the post-master, the clipping diodes, and the gain boost in front. And I showed all that in that video. So it might be a little bit redundant, because I really pretty much demonstrated it in that Amps in the Zone Steve Vai Jose Mod Marshall video. Yeah. Remember Frank Mbali? I remember him well. Yeah, incredible guitar player. He had a great instructional video that described his whole sweep picking approach. It was really good, and I worked on it forever, and I just couldn't get it. It was too different than what I'd already been doing for a long time, which was strict alternate picking. And at some point I decided I don't want to work on this anymore, because I'm finding it confusing. Like it's messing with my traditional playing, the way that I play, and kind of, which was, I guess, more the Steve Morse or whatever, like alternate picking. I guess maybe it came from Al Di Meola or something, back in the, like that type of fast picking, strict down, up, down, up, down, up alternate thing. The biggest problem I had was maybe doing upstrokes where the downbeat was. That felt really weird to me, like, because the pick direction now is not tied to the pulse of what the rest of my, like where my foot was coming down, where you're tapping your foot. I always want the arm to come down or the hand to come down, if this is the pulse in the song. And so it's like da 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 da. If that da 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 means da 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 da, if it's all of a sudden on an upstroke when the downbeat is, and that was sweep picking, it wasn't tied to that anymore. That was hard for me to get my head around. I hope that makes sense. I don't know. It was really difficult for me to try and figure that one out. So I just kind of bailed on it and got more into the the strict alternate stuff and just worked on that. There's only so many different techniques you can do, I think, before it's just like, can we just write songs now and, work on music instead of always trying to refine technique? I don't know. Well, guys, I should probably split. I guess. Any last questions here? Arthur says, when are you getting Paul Stanley on the show? I'd love to have Paul Stanley on the show. But I don't know. Yeah. Thoughts on sound improvements, swapping out stock transformer with a Mercury on a tube amp? Yeah, I'm not a. I don't want to. That's not. We use Haber transformers in my amp, and I'm a really big Haber fan. They seem to sound really good. They make the great Dagnall style transformer that goes in the PT100 1.5 inch stack and all that. And back when I was sort of, we were doing research on such things and stuff and really listening. John built a transformer switcher, John Sir, and we could listen back and forth to different transformers. So we listened to Mercuries and different ones and stuff, Hammond, different things that were available back then. And the Dagnall was the one we arrived at. It sounded great, and I haven't thought about it since. And Haber just does good work, so I like those. Those are the ones that I seem to gravitate towards, and I think they're really good companies. So I would say depending on what your amp is, but I'm not a. I don't want to Mercury's just never. I don't want to talk trash or whatever, but it's never been my thing. Like, just as far as I'm a Haber fan. That's what we use in my signature amps. So that's it. I guess that's my answer. Yeah, there's lots of good ones out there though, but have you seen Trey's new rig rundown? Fish is back on tour, and Trey has a huge complicated rig. Would love your thoughts. I know very little about that guy. He's one guy that I just haven't really investigated, and I could totally be missing the boat. I'm completely open to that possibility, but I have never listened to their music, not out of dislike or anything other than I just haven't. He's not a guy I've checked out. So where should I start? What's a good track? Give me a track I should listen to. I have a Wolfgang question. Doesn't his new album just rock your face off? It's really, really good. Wow, what an amazing talent. I love that he has his own sound. Yeah, and he did it all himself, played all the instruments. He's amazing. He's a self-made, anybody that ever gives that guy crap is, oh, you're riding on the coattails of what? Hey, man, he learned how to play guitar, bass, drums, and sing and write songs. He's not, like, how long did that take? I can't play the drums. Can you? It's like anybody out there criticizing him, I guarantee can't do what he can do. Oh, he's riding on the, oh, really? Like, really? Is he? Wow. Well, you must be able to do all those things really well then, and just have had a rough break at life then. Can you write songs like him and play all those instruments? Who the hell can? Nobody. I don't think there's probably just about anybody out there I've ever seen that can play drums, bass, guitar, and sing and write songs like that. Who? Name the person. Paul Gilbert's a pretty good drummer, but I don't think he's probably as good of a singer. I mean, he can sing, but I don't think he's as good of a singer as Wolf. Wolf sings his ass off, Is there anybody out there that can anybody think? I mean, Grohl's obviously great, but he's more of a songwriter, guitar player. He's not like a who's the person? I mean, it's like there ain't nobody. you know. Oh, Prince. Well, okay, but he's no longer with us. So yeah, Prince, yeah. But come on, Prince is a musical genius. Stevie Wonder is a musical genius. Patrick says, I know you had your SL68 slightly modded by John. I'm curious what the changes were and if they would be worth doing. I'll start a storm if I get into that. But yeah, I have, there's a couple things that have been done to my SL68. I just don't know if they're willing to do that now or not. So I'd be remiss to maybe even talk about it. But you know, it's something they, you know, might do later. So I don't know. But it essentially revolves around bright caps, value in the mid pot, and the fat cap. That's it. So it just gives some voicing options. So I think they're still kind of trying to decide what they want to do with all that stuff. So Richie Kotzen, I don't know that Richie Kotzen is the drummer that Wolf Van Halen is. So Richie's amazing. And I know he plays some drums, you know, but Wolf is like like drums was his main instrument. That's what he told me when I didn't realize that either. And then I remember talking to him about it, and he said, oh yeah, that was my thing. Like he said, actually, he told me once, he said, I know it'll never happen because my uncle's the drummer in Van Halen, but I actually wish I could play drums. He told me that once. So he's an amazing drummer, you know, first and foremost. But then, you know, everything. I mean, the guy's amazing, you know. Who else? Lenny Kravitz. Yeah, Lenny's a great, you know, he can play a lot of instruments too. Yeah, okay, Lenny's really great. All right. Maybe. This guy, Arthur, he's got it. Yeah, I'm sorry you got sick. But anyway, you know how long it takes to do all that stuff. Phil Collins doesn't play guitar. I don't think. Bruce Springsteen, Paul McCartney. Okay. But can we do this in a rock context? Like somebody that's making hard rock music that's like, you know, like blistering kind of rock and roll playing, like, because I can't think of anybody in that. I know there's guys out there that can play like decent, you know, McCartney's a great example. He's amazing in his own, you know, obviously like amazing in his own thing, but it's not quite the same, you know, not quite the same school of Dave Grohl, sort of. Obviously amazing musician and stuff and sings great and stuff, but I don't know that he's the guitar player that Wolf is. Wolf's a pretty serious guitar player, you know, like, I mean, from the hard rock, like Dave can solo. I've seen him do it actually a little bit and it's totally credible. Dave's amazing. He's in his own. Yeah, you're right. Okay. There's not more than 5 guys. There's not more than 5 guys. There's Prince, there's Dave Grohl, there's Paul McCartney, there's Wolf Van Halen, and there's who? Preston says Phil Collins is up there, but Phil doesn't. I don't know that Phil plays guitar and bass. Maybe a little, you know, but not like that, right? And Lenny Kravitz. We'll give it to Lenny Kravitz. All right. There's the Trey recommendation there. Picture of Nectar. I would listen to the song Stash. Okay. I'll check that out. Thank you. I'm going to give it a listen. Anybody else got any other music recommendations before I go? I think I brought it up last week, but the new Halsey album is amazing. Give it a listen. 90s rock vibes, hardcore. If you're into the 90s, oh my God, it's good. It's that Trent Reznor collaboration. Ugh. Sorry, there was a thing that happened. I don't know. Aldo Nova, Don Henley. Don Henley doesn't play guitar like Wolf Van Halen. I know Don Henley very well, pretty well, and he's in his own category, does his own thing, but he's not a guitar player like Wolf Van Halen. He'd be the first to tell you that. Jack White. I'm not talking about people that can play some drums. That can keep a beat and play pretty cool and record a song, you know, do some simple fills. I'm talking about a guy that could go out and basically like probably take Mike Portnoy's gig or whatever on drums. That's what I'm talking about. And yet then go and do, you know, pretty friggin' ripping guitar solos and then sing like at the level that he's singing at, you know, that's what I'm talking about. I know guys that can play okay drums, you know, Yeah, wow, you're a pretty good drummer. Wow, I didn't know you could keep a beat like that and actually. Wow, that's cool. You're a good drummer. But I'm talking about rippers. Grohl. No, not quite. He can't. I don't think Grohl can do what Wolf can do on guitar. Grohl's a great guitar player. Really solid, great guitar player. But it's like he's, there's another guy in the band that does most of the solos. You know what I mean? He plays some solos, but he's not like friggin' Rick Beato. This is a good. I like this conversation. Actually, got interesting here at the end. Everybody's saying Richie. Richie's great. Richie can play drums, but I don't think. I mean, Richie plays in a band with Mike Portnoy on drums, actually, for a reason. Probably. Richie's. I know he plays drums and records drums on his own stuff and stuff like that. Richie's an amazing musician. Great singer in his own right. What else we got here? Anybody else got any other Animal from the Muppets? All right, you got me there. Yeah. Phil Collins sings piano, drums, guitar, all the things. What did Phil do on guitar? Educate me. Like that was like a, because my memory of him is always with, of course, Mike Rutherford, and then, in a solo band, he had a great guitar player, Daryl, right? Strummer, that played most of the stuff on the solo hits. I don't know. Am I crazy? Or Sting is a great. Sting is underrated as I know he can play serious guitar, actually. Like he used to warm up playing Bach, I think, backstage on classical guitar before going out to do gigs. I know he's pretty serious, but I don't know that Sting plays drums like super good. Does he? Tommy Lee. I don't know that Tommy Lee sings like what? Nobody. Come on. You guys still haven't picked anybody here that I don't think is no. The guy from Spock's Beard. Yeah, I know that guy. Nick DiGiulio, right? He's a sweet guy. He's a really great guy. He's a hell of a drummer. What else we got here? Does Pat Travers play drums? I don't know that. I'm not sure. Stevie Wonder's a musical genius. Danko Jones plays a lot of instruments. He's my friend from Canada. He does. It's true. Rock and roll. Well, you guys, I better go, I guess. I better go. I don't want to, but I better. I've got something coming up at fun thing I'm going to do today at 4:30 p.m. So I'm going to go do that. And also I got to get some work done. So everybody, you all have a great week. Thank you so much for being here, as usual. I like cashews. Sometimes I like to recommend cashews for quick protein. Great snack around the studio. When you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. I forgot I didn't eat. Cashews are where it's at. Don't like almonds. Give me like itchy mouth allergy. Cashews are where it's at. Everybody, I'll see you next time for more fun and games. I love you all. You guys are terrific. Thanks for being here. Rock on.